And welcome. It's Wrestling Podcast time. Red Leaf Retrocast here. I am JD. It is episode 104, titled Global Women's Strike Cinderella Final. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of women's wrestling talk on this podcast, along with a lot of puro stuff. I got a lot to talk about today. It's been 2 weeks. Naturally, it's wrestling from around the world every couple weeks. And let's get these plugs out of the way quick. On the Patreon, Red Leaf Retrocast Patreon, latest Mission Pro Wrestling reviews are up. I'm continuing that each month for the foreseeable future. And as of this release, I will have been to live the latest WWR show out of Beyond Wrestling and the debut Maria Kanellis new women's wrestling project, the Women's Wrestling Army, that was also in Rhode Island. So you will hear, this will be one of the few places, if not only place, that will have the complete review of at least the live wrestling show from what Maria Kanellis is up to. I mentioned it in the previous podcast at the time of my recording a couple weeks ago. Didn't really know what Maria Kanellis was up to in terms of what the goal of Women's Wrestling Army is and was. She herself has done a number of different interviews recently. One worth more or less checking out is done over at, I believe it's Bell to Bells, or at least Warren Hayes interviewed her, and she mostly just spoke about how Bobby Cruz, former Ring of Honor announcer and currently announcing various Ring of Honor title matches for AEW. This is kind of his brainchild, and Maria Kanellis is kind of on board for her ideas. And what's interesting is its kind of goal to make money is almost like a profit sharing scheme, which is interesting, and how she is going to hopefully bring many promotions together. And it's my interpretation of what she said in the goal of doing backstage interviews and storylines among women in wrestling is it looks like she's going to piggyback off of different big events around the country. And that will give her the ability to hopefully sell more tickets to these shows and get a lot of these names in the women's wrestling indie scene together, and from various other promotions like Impact, for example. Hopefully, lower end AEW really, hops on with this to get the wrestlers reps and more experience, because her idea really comes across as training for television wrestling, which is vastly needed in the independent scene going currently in the United States. Because I've spoken about that quite a lot and written about it, that these women need reps and these women need to be booked in the first place. Whether it's fly-ins or the independent promotions can't afford their fly-ins, or the women are just seemingly too spread out in the scene. The United States is a big country, and with Mission Pro out of San Antonio, Texas, it's not really centralized. And as I spoke about in the recent Mission Pro Wrestling review, that a lot of local talent is used and is necessary. And Thunder Rosa herself went out and spoke that it's important to build your own local talent that you can book show to show to show. Like Maddie Rinkowski really comes to mind there. So check out that review over on the Patreon, patreon.com/redleafretrocast. You will also have the WWR show, as I mentioned, and this new Maria Kanellis Women's Wrestling Army project. I'm very excited for it. I have definitely a history of doubting Maria Kanellis and what she herself offers the scene, at least in terms of her knowledge. But I'll give this effort. I've liked what I've heard. I like the ambition, especially, and I like this effort of trying. And it seems Bobby Cruz has a very good head on his shoulders to what he wants to bring, and he's made Maria Kanellis kind of the face of this, which I do agree with that part, absolutely. Very interesting stuff happening there. So that's between this show and then on the Patreon, that will be 2 shows there. a Mission Pro wrestling review later in the month of May. Out now is the latest Joshi 2010s episode covering the DualShock Wave tournament from Pro Wrestling Wave in 2011, guest hosted by JPQ from PWI, and recurring guest on this podcast too, along with the latest review over the top Western Joshi matches of the month with the full power rankings and review over there. Get those couple episodes 2 weeks early on the Joshi 2010s tier, $1.50, and then everything else, LLPW reviews, the WWR, those live wrestling reviews are on the $5 tier. So yeah, definitely sign up, help me out, spread the word, and let's get going here. On this episode today, we got a lot of AAA to talk about. As of recording, slightly before Triple Mania out of Monterrey is going to happen. But I do have a lot of AAA to talk about as I more or less keep up with their YouTube page these days. They tend to post a lot of shows kind of on a month delay, which is fine. I do like that. We're going to go over Pro Wrestling Eve. This is not going to be Patreon exclusive. They had Global Women's Strike that I really want to talk about. And then lots of Joshi news. Stardom Cinderella tournament ended, along with a lot of news from Ice Ribbon, Wave, and the like. Dragongate is on the road to Dead or Alive, so I had a Korakuen show building up to Dead or Alive, and the announcement of King of Gate, so we'll talk about that a bit there. New Japan and AEW, Forbidden Door, got to talk about it, got to mention it. Going to approach that a little bit differently since this is essentially a lucha and women's wrestling podcast these days. But a lot to talk about with New Japan and just my overall feelings over AEW recently, rather than a show-to-show, match-to-match review. There's plenty of podcasts out there that cover AEW from that perspective. WXW, I got some thoughts over my favorite little promotion in Europe out of Germany. So that's going to be fun. Then we go into the retro stuff. All Japan Women Classics, the AJW Destiny section. I got a big double feature there. Starting 1993, very exciting, and it started off with a bang to the promotion. I can't wait to talk. It's essentially all of January of 1993. Very excited. Still skipping New Japan through the 90s. I got kind of burned out on that. So just bear with. I'll get maybe I will go back to it. There's only like a few years left to go. And then Nitro, August 9th, 1999. It is the go home show for Road Wild 1999. Do we continue the streak? We're at 2 weeks 2 weeks in a row that I have enjoyed Nitro in 1999. I know, shocking, but that's how it would go. Alrighty. So, timestamp here. We are 9 minutes into this podcast, and let's get into some AAA. So for AAA, on their YouTube channel, you do kind of have to use a VPN to get Mexico, and they had their entire March 13th Gira Aniversario show up. Let's just do some simple thoughts, and a couple things I actually do want to discuss more is, okay, so La Empresa, that's Azul, Estrelita, Puma King, they defeat Iguana, Mrs. C's Jr., and Nino Hamburguesa. I love this match. It is the perfect AAA lucha opener. Azul is really fun to watch right now because he's just so big and strong and he tosses dudes, while Mr. Iguana, I didn't quite get it at first. I thought the iguana in his mouth was kind of annoying, and Hamburguesa can barely move. Doesn't matter. This was like a must-watch 1 out of 3 type match. If you're familiar with the recommendation scale, 1 out of 3 is like a mild recommendation, 2 out of 3 is recommend, and 3 out of 3 is full marks. Highly recommend. Go out of your way to watch it immediately kind of situation. I don't do 5-star. I'll maybe throw something like that in there every now and again, but this was definitely a very fun opener. Las Toxicas, that's Flammer, Maravilla, and Hydra, defeat Fabi Apache, Lady Shani, and Sexy Star. This was fantastic. I actually, in the Western Top 5 Joshi Matches of the Month article that I put out on the Patreon monthly for 2022, I wrote a lot about Las Toxicas, what's going on in AAA with its women's division, and the purpose and outlook on what they're doing. And Las Toxicas specifically were the heavy highlight there, along with people like Gira, the new sexy star that we got here. There's some really interesting things developing with that, and definitely check that out, read that. This match was a good representation of what to expect. I'm 50-50 on how I feel about Tirantes, the crooked ref, doing it, but he mostly keeps out of these matches. He's very limited in it, but the matches, both matches that I've watched here, end with a kind of three-way breakdown, and then they all the Toxicus pin somebody on the other team, and it's a fast count. More or less, they kind of stay away from pinfalls during the matches, but I am extremely high on Las Toxicas. It is worthwhile going out of your way to see these three women put in their work, and specifically against like Lady Shani and New Sexy Star is very, very welcome. Laredo Kid defeats Tauros and Willie Mack to retain his Cruiserweight title in AAA. 12 minutes, Laredo Kid, and his Spanish Fly, like, sit-out bomb that he does is pretty rad. Black Taurus and Laredo Kid are they're 2 out of the 3 top luchadors I love watching right now. Vikingo goes without saying, but everyone says his name. So I'm throwing in Laredo Kid, Black Taurus, and I'll save my thoughts on a third one, whom is actually, I think Laredo Kid's my number 1 luchador this year. And then I have number 2 in an unexpected name. NGD defeats Nuevo Puerto del Norte. That's Carter Brava Jr., Mochakota Jr., and Tito Santana. This match was not shown on the YouTube page, and I wasn't able to see it, along with the Los Vipers defeating Giantes del Aire. That was the Vikingo Octagon and Pagano match. Very bummed out, because I really wanted to see that one. I've been pretty high on like Latigo and Abismo this year. FTR defeat Dragon Lee and Dralistico, 17 minutes, interference roll-up finish, because it is a Dralistico Dragon Lee match in AAA. You can't pin them clean. They're a highly protected commodity. Match was good, though. I recommend that one. And the main event was Pentagon Jr. defeating Ares. Post-match beatdown by FTR. This Pentagon-Ares match, and the third guy is indeed Ares. I love this dude. He's doing mixed tags with Chick Tormenta, and he's really been the up-and-coming highlight reel for me. His bit heel persona, his way he works in the ring is slightly different than a lot of other guys, especially the highlight reel guys like a Vikingo and Laredo Kid. Even a Dragon Lee and Dralistico, they have their own thing going on. Eras is different than everybody else. Definitely check out this Pentagon Eras match. There's Canadian destroyers off chairs through a table. Fantastic stuff. We move on to the Gira Aniversario show, March 26th in Tijuana. It is Kamikaze, Ryan Kidd, Excalibur defeat Archangel Divino, Railstar, and Ultimo Maldito. Not familiar with most of the guys in this match, but it was tough for me to get into because I haven't been exposed to guys like this. So it was a first-time experience. The more I see him, the more I'll probably have to say on him. So we'll just kind of leave it at that for now. Another Los Toxicas match. They defeat Apache, Lady Lee, and Lady Shani. Same deal as the previous show. It's exactly what I was talking about. And then the last match they were able to show from this Tijuana show was the El Dragon Jack Cartwheel in AAA, and Pagano defeat La Rebellion. That's Bestia, CC6, Mecha Wolf, and then partner Geno Del Aire. Jack Cartwheel in AAA, I got to see more of this guy here. He is tailor-made for AAA. Pagano gets the win by doing a power slam off the middle rope through a table. This table explodes. It's not a match I'd outright recommend other than seeing a couple cool spots, but I'm really enjoying Pagano, weirdly enough, in 2022. He's not usually my cup of tea because he's mostly a deathmatch guy, but he's turned down the bloodbaths and really kind of focused on more matches like this. And seeing him, I think I saw him in a couple matches during Mania weekend. He's he's fun to watch right now. So I'm really into AAA and keeping. I said this year I would keep up with more AAA, cover it on this podcast, and I'm doing just that. It's things like this. And I'm very excited for the Monterey Triple Mania show tonight, especially with the Young Bucks against, I hope, Phoenix shows up, and Vikingo. And naturally, there's that wild mixed tag title match where it's got like 8 people in it. The heel duo of Guevara and Conti. Assuming Guevara's healthy to do it, but regardless, if those two aren't in it, then it's still going to be a fun match for me. We move on to Eve Global Women's Strike from April 23rd. You can see the whole show by subscribing to their YouTube page. It's like $9 a month or something. It's not a heavy investment. They generally have been showing the first half of these shows on YouTube for free throughout the year. And I would say, outside of my usual complaints with Eve, this show was probably their best of the year. And it's their best show I've seen since, I would say, Wrestle Queendom 2. It's been a long time. So we're just going to do this quickly. My critiques out of the way first. The swearing on commentary by the dude has to go. Him saying fuck and shit and all, like, it's fine for a guy like me to come on this podcast and swear and do those things, but it's really off-putting as a fan to just constantly get told, what the fuck are you doing? You should be watching this shit. Like, when the Emi Sakura Charlie Morgan match was going on, he just kept swearing up and yelling that she's 45 fucking years old. What the fuck are you doing? Digs at AEW. Don't do that. And the zooming camera guy is back in the bottom right-hand corner from the hard camera. This guy just doesn't know how to shoot wrestling. It's nauseating watching this dude. The way he shoots it, the incessant zooming in and out is absurd. And I'm fully convinced this is the same guy they claimed let go a few months back. And due to other production issues from their previous show, I guess they had to get him back because there's just no one else to do it. Very much a shame, but they need to teach this guy how to just stand there and not do this incessant zooming. I mean, we're missing moves because of this. It's awful. And the worst offense of the show was, so generally in Europe and even independent wrestling here, when I go to Beyond Wrestling shows, you have your first half and then you have a 15-minute intermission, and then it comes back for the second half of the show. Great. Okay. And in European wrestling, specifically in the UK quite a lot, if they want to utilize NXT UK talent, they can't show them on YouTube or their streaming services. So the move would be you show this as your opener. Okay? That way, when the live audience tuning in on your streaming services, they can be told, okay, the actual showtime is going to be, let's say, 7:30. And at 7 o'clock is when this dark match happens for the live audience. That's the move. That makes the most sense, and you're not wasting people's time. Instead, on this show, what happened was they went to what they called a 15-minute intermission. It was actually 20 minutes. Then they showed the dark match, while every indication, without telling the live audience that this was going to happen, we assumed and, of course, confirmed later that the Millie McKenzie-Nina Samuels match was the dark match, cut out the first match after that intermission, and it went about 30 minutes. And, of course, as things happen, the stream did not return in time. They ended up having some slight technical difficulties, and we ended up missing the beginning of the Shoko Nakajima Alex Windsor match, which was one of their big drawing matches to get a lot of new fans in, especially Joshi fans, to check this Eve show out. Now, from experience in watching the live feed, I got the feeling a lot of people kind of gave up in watching it live because it just took forever to come back from that intermission. And this was pretty insulting as a fan to be a part of this and watch it live, it now encourages me to not bother watching these shows live anymore. Just watch it on the replay from YouTube and not be a part of that experience. Because they didn't care about my time. They definitely didn't care about the live experience time. So as for the show itself, Riho defeats Ivy in just under 9 minutes. Not on the Ivy train, but I'm definitely on the Rio train. I have officially put Rio on the top 25 available free agents list. That's on the Western Joshi article that I write for the Patreon. And it is available free after 2 weeks. So Rio is definitely moving up the ranks there. I've been quite impressed with her. I mean, she had that 3 out of 3 match against Alex Windsor from the Resurgence show a couple months back. No, last month. It was just last month. Session Moth Martina defeats the Ava, the AVA. The Ava, she's very green. But I think with her look and the way she carries herself, she's very tall, she's big, she's strong. Very appealing look. Tremendous potential. Definitely on the... She's not in the top 25, but she's going to be kind of in that notes prospect list to kind of pay attention to. And Martina looks great. She's a little too shtick heavy still. I think at this point in her career, if she wants to go an extra mile and get a little better, she needs to drop the dancing shtick. I know that's what got her over in the first place, but as a wrestler, I see the need to evolve and try to get better. Emerson Jane defeats Sky Smithson, 11:30. This was very solid. And then that bullshit long intermission followed this match. But Emerson Jane, she's getting booked everywhere throughout the scene in the UK and the like. Sky Smithson, very good look. Very strong, bullish woman. I enjoyed this. Shoka Nakajima defeats Alex Windsor in just under 15 minutes. This was phenomenal. They teased the 15-minute draw. I wrote about this extensively in the Western Joshi article. Highly recommend. Nakajima beats her clean with the top rope senton. I highly recommend this. Check this out. This is kind of a must-watch territory there for women's wrestling fans and Joshi fans. I think it's Shoko Nakajima's best match this year. I liked it more than the Miyu Yamashita match. And, well, that's kind of Shoko's only real top-end match this year so far. So, maybe it's a low bar, but... Alex Windsor just continues to impress, and if she wasn't based out of the UK specifically, I'd probably have her ranked number 1 right now on that free agent top 25, but because she's in the UK, and I don't know, and there's no indication a lot of these UK talents have the outward ambition to make it to, I don't know, Stardom or AEW and the like. I just don't know. So she can't be she can be number 2, but she can't be number 1. That's kind of the way I look at it. Emi Sakura defeats Charlie Morgan 13-23. I'm actually kind of surprised that Charlie Morgan took the loss here, but Emi Sakura is an AEW talent. She has that protection element to her. AEW talent doesn't lose. That's just the way it is. You would think that Emi Sakura would be the exception to that rule, but maybe not. They just had a straight veteran type match, and this is the kind of match that got a lot of the fire Charlie Morgan's been missing in her matches lately. Finally saw something where she was a lot more comfortable in the ring, pulling out bigger moves again. Maybe this was the kind of match to bring that next level out of her again that we saw in years past before she had her retirement. Again, this match also made that into the article, so you can read about that there. And then Jetta retains her title against Casey. This is Casey Owens, and almost didn't recognize her at first. The match went just over 14 minutes. Crowd loves Jetta. She's a hometown favorite kind of deal going on. She herself claims that she does not have the ambitions to ever leave Eve. So, okay, that's fine. Put your title on someone that's there. She has the history with them. Rhea O'Reilly's still kind of their situation. But Casey Owens... Look, I speak about this all the time. This 2017 era of people. So there's two aspects to that 2017 year. It's either people that debuted around that year, 2017, 2018, or it's now the year where a lot of those people that debuted in the early 2010s now finally have enough reps and experience where they've gotten decent to good. And Casey Owens is one of those people. She debuted in about 2011, and now she kind of reached that point in 2017 where she was finally becoming respectable in the ring, and now we're at kind of that 5-year mark. You get where I'm going with, and she's figured out a character. She's got the look down, and she's got the ring prowess down, and this turned out to be something pretty good as well. I gave this 1 out of 3. I think if you're more in tune with the scene and more in tune with Eve, you'd probably go a little bit higher. So I could see someone going 2 out of 3 on this if they're going by my scale. So overall, besides the other aspects of wrestling that may infuriate you, like it did me, this Global Women's Strike show was a success from the booking and in-ring standpoint and the character development. I really like the people that they're booking lately. I love this kind of move with what Charlie Morgan, Alex Windsor. I definitely want to see more Casey Owens inside Eve. I definitely want to see more Session Moth Martina. I know she's not from the area, but very, very curious to see what Eve brings in the coming weeks and the months ahead. And this could be a recurring thing. I mean, I'm signed up for their YouTube channel. I don't have the best history with Eve fans in particular because I tend to bury this promotion a lot. But they're doing good things in 2022, and they do deserve the credit from that aspect. So let me get my little timestamp marking here at 27 minutes into this podcast. And I can get the next drop ready for you guys. Maybe drink a little coffee in between. And let's get to some Joshi talk. A lot of women's wrestling talk back to back to back. Let's see here. Nothing from TJPW. Here we go. All right. Time for Joshi news. So we have we've had a couple Ice Ribbon shows, namely from April 17th, attendance 158. And they just had their Korakuen Hall show today on recording. And here's something specifically that I tweeted out today. Let's see if I can pull it up here. I'm on my bookmarks currently. Bear with me. Here we go. Uh-oh. There it is. So, Ice Ribbon is in quite the place recently. A lot of people left the promotion. Sakushi's retiring. Tsukasa Fujimoto is doing an indefinite leave of absence from the in-ring aspect. And you would expect Ice Ribbon attendance to be up during this time. To what extent, we don't know. And with their big May 4th show coming, or is it May 5th? Either way, at Yokohama, which is the last final big show for many of them, they got at their Korakuen Hall today 472. And for perspective, it is the highest Korakuen Hall show that they've had this year. It is their highest attendance this year. It's up from 456 in March. And little perspective and context, TJPW's April Korakuen got 509. So they're in the ballpark of their competition. Oz Academy allegedly got 677 earlier in the month. We know the deal with Oz Academy and Seedling and those companies where they tend to inflate their attendance a bit. It is Golden Week. So I'm not going to totally discount the Seedling number of, I think it was like 577 or something. I'm a little hesitant to believe that part. But it being Golden Week and how it's a holiday, so maybe the attendance has more merit than not. I won't totally discount it. But back to Ice Ribbon. Year over year, they're up from 340, which is what they got last April. It's their highest April. This was interesting. It is their highest April attendance show since 2017. Historically, don't really run Korakuen in April. They did last year, but they hadn't in any previous years. So I mean, when they ran Korakuen in 2017, it was Risa Serra's reign that drew a lot of money, and they got like 900. So there's that perspective. So March has the jumbo ribbon, and this was the Spring is Short Maidens Will Fight show. So it's moved up from previous year. So there's a lot of context and perspective in that. But regardless, great success in the context of Ice Ribbon itself. I think if you're judging by the fact that it is a holiday week, and you do have this kind of is the last efforts of Sakushi and Tsukasa for the foreseeable future, that you'd kind of want to see that attendance over 500, maybe into the 600-700 range. Something like that Oz Academy number, but look, these cards just aren't that interesting, and Ice Ribbon's real down. It's very hard, like even with the aspect of retirements, which do generally draw, and it absolutely has here in this case drawn more for them than they have in recent times. The issue with Ice Ribbon certainly is that they're in rough times, and if we're to believe that Oz Academy number at 677 is true, then it's not looking good for Ice Ribbon. And as I've mentioned in the past, and in my Retirement of Sakushi article that's on the Patreon that you can still read, $5 tier, I went with my approach to that article was assuming Ice Ribbon wasn't shutting down, and what they could do to build to the future in as quick a fashion as possible. And we haven't. I read the results of the Korakuen Hall today, and it's a little too late for certain moves and for building up shows. And really, there was a Tsukasa Fujimoto interview that came out, and she said Ice Ribbon was going to shut down. The president was going to shut them down. And that really answers a lot of questions to what was happening within the promotion, why all these people were leaving, and that alone probably has a lot to do with why Sakushi has decided to retire now, and why Tsukasa herself admitted to contemplating retirement herself. And if it wasn't for the teenagers and the lower card people of the group that kind of convinced or begged the president to keep Ice Ribbon going, they would be shut down right now. That is what came out of this article. And for all those people that dig this podcast and say I'm way too negative on a promotion that I generally have enjoyed the past 4 years in this podcast, reality is reality. And it's very unfortunate that I have to come on here and say I told you so, but don't be surprised if at any point after this May show that they really dial it back, and it's not going to be the same promotion that you can even recognize. And who knows what to expect. Don't be so shocked if you get like a Hamako Hoshi run coming out of this. And I'm not fully convinced Asahi is going to defeat Sakushi for this title. Now, to be fair, there is a past precedent for Ice Ribbon putting the title on teenagers in times of need. Sakushi herself was very much a part of that in, I believe it was 2012. And we shall see. I'm still leaning towards the fact that with Ice Ribbon's recent booking patterns over the last couple of years, that it's really a thank you for your service type aspect. And Sakushi is going to retire with this title, and then they're going to have a tournament out of that, and then they'll go from there. And honestly, at this point, that might be the best decision for them, because it'll create an interest, and you can actually build talent up from essentially scratch. And maybe they'll finally have some of their kind of tier 1 freelancers on their regular contracts come in. But in the aspect of pushing talent and getting them ready to carry the company going forward, it's going to take a long time. And we might. I really believe we're kind of at the it's too late part where you can't. It's very hard for at least myself as a fan, and maybe even for other Joshi fans out there to believe Asahi simply just defeats Sakushi now, even though she has pinned her on a house show and pinned her, I think, another time. But it's all come in like the last week or so. It has not been this build since February, so to say, which they would have been. It would have behooved them to do such a thing with people like Ibuki and Asahi, and they have been giving Kaho Matsushita some big matches, but it's big matches against people she's not going to beat. Like, she's not beating Maya Yukihi in a singles match. Not with Maya doing her thing in Oz, which she just lost the title, but and doing her things in Nomads and wanting to aspire to get to America and do things. Like, Maya Yukihi still has a lot of pull, and her getting under the arm of Mayumi Ozaki, at least politically, is an extremely smart move. So, back to the Ice Ribbon April 17th show. Just 3 matches to talk about there. Actually, only 2. Sariano defeats Ibuki Hoshi, so there you go. There's another Kohai Senpai veteran political standing there. Very short, never really got off the ground. There was some good chops in it for what that's worth. And then the tag title match, Galaxy Punch, Hikari Shimizu and Saki, the best grifters going around the scene right now. They are just everywhere. They're in Wave. They're in. They just showed up in Stardom. More on that later. They're on Nomads. Saki is just getting her work in, to say the least. They defeated Kaho Matsushita and Tsukasa Fujimoto, 23 minutes. Very enjoyable match. Kaho definitely still has a lot of. She has a steep learning curve, and it's gonna come and hit her hard. And they really have to push her into spots like this a lot, and gain her confidence, build her confidence up. And there are moments where they're handing her microphones, and she just freezes up, and they're kind of poking her a little bit, having a good time. But she needs kind of the mic time and build more confidence. And matches like this will do it. I do recommend this match. This was very good. I'm a huge fan of Hikari Shimizu and what she brings to the table. I'm going to get to her a little bit later as well when we get to Stardom. So that's it for Ice Ribbon. We're going to, I believe that May 4th show isn't going to air until, I think, like 3 weeks later in the month of May. So whether I come on this podcast on May 15th or not and speak about the fallout of the show, I'm probably going to hold off on a lot of my deeper thoughts and the show itself when I've seen what happened with my own eyes, rather than just the results themselves. I think that'll do more. That'll do more for respecting Ice Ribbon, what they're going to do, and definitely have a bigger outlook on what they're probably going to do. And the next 2 months of Ice Ribbon is going to be extremely interesting. The fallout from that show. Wave on April 17th had the Nozaki Kohaku title match, but earlier on the card it had a double dash of Yumi Oka. Decent little opener match there, and then she immediately faced Suzu Suzuki afterwards, in which they went to just a 10-minute draw. Not my favorite decision. I know you don't want to defeat Suzu Suzuki right now, but there is something to be said for Suzu Suzuki in Wave currently, and they're treating her like a big deal, and Yumi Oka herself seems to be on a roll. More on that in a second. So, but hey, a nice little fun match itself, and just whatever else is on that card. I have a policy of no Hibiscus May, no Sakura Hirota, and you're gonna have to twist my arm to get me to watch a Miyazaki match, because they just don't do it for me. So you will not hear me bury those matches for the foreseeable future. They are hard skips for me, because I know I'm just not going to like them. Regina DeWave title match. Nagisa Nozaki continues her indie dominance, defeating Kohaku, the former Shindo, 15-12. This was disappointing to me. I think Suzu Suzuki got a much better match out of Kohaku. They went to very stiff forearms and suplexes, and what ended up happening in this match was it was definitely a Kohai Senpai veteran over the rookie type match where Nozaki just kind of prods and picks her apart and dominates her throughout the entire match. There's small hope spots for Kohaku, and she was very much... Kohaku, unlike the Suzu Suzuki match, really came across as a rookie in this match, where it was some forearms and a lot of drop kicks, very, very low-end offense. And because of that, I had a huge issue with ever being invested further into the match. It felt like it never got off the ground. And while I still gave it a 1 out of 3, I was definitely expecting more because of how that Suzu match was able to do. And maybe that speaks higher for the skill of Suzu Suzuki. Maybe that's something to look into. But regardless, Nagisa Nozaki is definitely on a roll. I've said this before. It's Alex Windsor, it's Miyuki Takase, and Nagisa Nozaki. Those are my top 3 outside of Stardom for women's wrestlers this year. And everyone's bringing in something new. I haven't been able to watch those couple matches from the Seedling show quite yet. And the Diana show, which featured the Nozaki Aikasato title match. I do know the results of these matches. And boo this promotion. Boo Diana. Getting mad at Diana's booking is quite hilarious, but I will lean into it more and more. So I think next time I'll have the Seedling and Diana match reviews. I'll throw that into my Indie Joshi card, which is what I'm doing now. Full Nomads cards announced. I gotta pull that up, actually. Full Nomads. I have it posted here. And this card looks pretty damn good. I'm pleasantly surprised with how Nomads was able to sell the Shinjuku face card. Let's see here. They are doing... let's see. First announcement. They had the participants. Here we go. Kaho Kobayashi is coming back to wrestling. So she was taking time off because the Joshi scene just isn't indicative of what they want to do. And Nomad's got her back. She is jacked. Her legs, her arms. I mean, if you told me she was hitting the gym with Kairi, I'd believe you. And she's going up against Hiroyo Matsumoto. If there was to be a draw on this card, I want it to be this match. I want this match to go like, I think it's set for a 15-minute draw. Go all 15 minutes. I want to see them put on the best 15 minutes that they can do. Do I see Hiroyo probably beating Kaho out of the gate? I do. But I definitely prefer a draw in this case. Tei Honma is going to be in the opener against Momika Hanazono. And I like this decision. Tei Honma's coming back from injury. She's definitely one of the bright spots of the independent freelance scene, and Momika Hanazono is definitely more along the lines of a rookie, and she's a freelancer. This will be a good little spot for her to showcase what she can do against the veteran Tei Honma. So I do like that aspect. There is essentially a team YMZ against Colors match. That's Yoneyama, Makoto, and Maiko Ozaki. 30-minute time limit against Hikari Shimizu, Rina Amikura, and Yuko Sakurai. Is it too much for me to ask that Makoto should probably win this match and build her up to something? I've spoken about this. Makoto's kind of doing the best work of her career the last 18 months. She's in great shape. She's moving well. She's putting on good matches. The Sakushi draw that she went to recently was something I was very much into. I've spoken that Ice Ribbon should put the title on her, in fact. And I think she could be a main eventer for Nomads going forward. But of course, we don't know what exactly Nomads can be at this point in time. Are they going to be a monthly produce show? Which would be fine, but with the landscape of the Joshi scene right now and so many promotions just not in good shape. Nomads, the hope for Nomads is high, because if they can focus on all the freelancers getting work like this and doing good things in Shinjuku Face, because that seems like a good place for them to run out of, much like Oz Academy, then hopefully they can become a bigger promotion and they can use other promotions' rookies and sophomores and lower end talent and utilize them in stories for themselves. It's almost kind of like the opposite of what a lot of these other promotions do, where the freelancers come in and work the undercards. They can have the other promotions' undercards work, and they could focus on their main event in very much that same manner. Let's see here. Kaho. Here we go. Very good tag match here. Saoriano and Saki against Asuka, that's Veni, and YUU. I watched that Sendai tag with Yu and Chihiro against Miko Wada and Takase. A lot of comedy throughout it. Takase is definitely in house show mode, and while it's enjoyable, it's not indicative of high-end matches. And I will speak about the Korakuen 60th anniversary show in a bit here. Just loose thoughts over that card. But yeah, excited for this one. Veni, Saki, Saoriano. Look, if Nomads becomes a thing, they have an excellent main event. Veni, Saki, Saoriano, Rina Yamashita, Mayuki, Miyuki Takase, Ryu Mizunami if she's going to be more frequent to Japan than in AEW. And even not, just the occasional appearance is fine. I know they'll want to probably push people like you up there. Hiroyo could definitely use a spot to shine in an upper card main event. They have a lot of high-end talent that they could cycle out of, and a lot of big matches that they could put on. And the main event is Rina and Yukihi teaming up against Takase and Mizunami, which is interesting because I don't recall Mayuki ever being in a big-time matchup across the ring from Mizunami, and I certainly can't think of anything off the top of my head with even Takase. So from my fan perspective, that's a big match and big first-time tag, and I don't feel like they're giving away good matches, but they're not giving away matches later that they can build to big-end singles matches that they can sell more tickets. So Nomads gets a big thumbs up from me for their very first show, and that's coming in at the end of May. So no word yet on if there's going to be international streaming or any way to buy it. Hopefully there's a pay-per-view or YouTube option at the very least that we can be a part of it. And then for Marvelous has their Korakuen Hall show coming up with YUU getting the title shot against Iroha for the 3AW title off no build. Yu hasn't even been on a Marvelous card in 2022, I believe, which is something to be said. And they're concluding their tag title tournament that just has zero buzz to it at all. Kaoru Ito is in that, and she's in the main event. Fingers crossed she loses. I'm very torn on how they went about getting to the show and how the announcement's made. Why exactly you or someone within Marvelous wasn't built up on previous shows to get to this point. The match order isn't the issue, it's how they got there. It's been, at this point, it's going to be 5 months since this title's been in recirculation with Iroha, and they've essentially done nothing with it. It's still boxing title extraordinaire type booking, and Sendai's in the same boat for that aspect. And it must be noted that Marvelous wrestlers, Rin and Maria and Iroha, just haven't been on Pro Wrestling Wave shows in months. And this coincides directly with Kohaku showing up, and yes, there was a nice little press release that said everything's fine, they got permission and all that, but it is not a coincidence that there hasn't been any involvement in Marvelous on Wave. Could the conspiracy theories and reading between the lines be too much? Maybe it's just a simple aspect of we don't want to book Marvelous wrestlers for the time. We want to focus on colors and prominence coming in, and maybe that's all the spots that we have, and you guys can do your own thing. That's very possible. However, the Catch the Wave was announced, and we got blocks and the participants. And as I pull it up, and here it is. I like the block names, by the way. The kicking block. They have Sei, it's Nozaki, Hanako Nakamori, and Hikari Shimizu. Excellent block. I'm into that. Gonna watch every match. Then there's the hardcore block, which is all caps Saki, Risa Sera, Yumi Oka, and Miyazaki. Not into Miyazaki, and I really hope this isn't actual hardcore matches. It's just titled that way. There's the comical block, Yonayama, Hirota, Hibiscus May, Miyako Matsumoto. Great. Stick all the wrestlers I don't want to watch in one block. I can totally skip them. The future block, which I like this idea. It's Kohaku, Suzu Suzuki, Riku Kawahata, Shiozura, and Haruka Umasaki. I fully expect Suzu Suzuki to come out of that block, but if they want to concentrate on their own roster and build off of the Kohaku Suzu Suzuki match, get Kohaku a big win over Suzu to win the block. That would be great. And then you have the strong arm block. That's YUU. I think that's Miyuki Takase. It says Miyune. I don't think that's right. Itsuki Aoki and Ayami Sasamura. So lots of good talent, but as you noticed, no Marvelous wrestlers. Look, Rin got to the finals last year, and she's not even in it this year. So I don't think it's out of this possibility that there's some bad feelings going on between Marvelous and Wave currently. I think in time they'll get over it, but it's when you're running the Catch the Wave tournament and you're not utilizing when you got Miyako Matsumoto in there instead of a Rin or a Maria, then okay, what are we doing? So prediction: I fully expect Yumi Oka to probably win this thing. She's been on a little bit of a run lately. She's been protected more or less, and look, it's been a while for Yumi Oka to carry the title and be the head of the promotion. She stepped back for a period of time. Nozaki has this great run going on, and by the time this is over, I could definitely buy Yumi Oka Nozaki being kind of the biggest match that Wave can kind of put on with their own wrestlers, and that's something even I'm into. You would think, with my opinion in past, that I would consider Yumi Oka an old guard, but she's never really been booked that way in the first place, outside of the initial Catch the Wave back in like 2010. Like, it is okay to have your wrestlers go over and be booked accordingly, and she is, for this promotion, the veteran and the asset going forward, along with people like Nozaki. So you can do that. I think they can still get a big end Nozaki Suzu Suzuki match out of this. Obviously, the bigger question there is how protected is Suzu Suzuki now with her direct involvement in Stardom, and even though she's being pinned in various prominence roles, she is an asset in Wave. So unless there's some Stardom involvement that's blocking, I think you should absolutely build up a Suzu defense before the inevitable Yumi Oka title switch. What I don't want to see is a freelance talent come in and beat Nozaki. I think that would be a more negative in Wave's case than other promotions. Okay. The 60th Korakuen Hall show. I mean, I did enjoy the show. It was a lot of fun. It was it featured a lot of talent in good prominent matches. Although it was very low end for that first half, didn't really get out to impress. What was that attendance again? I think it was 1,200. Let me pull up Yu's cage match here, because that would be much easier to see. Yeah, here we go. 1,251 was the attendance there. So not bad. You would want it to be higher, for sure, for a anniversary super show card like this. But I gotta mention, Kyoko Inoue was in a trios match with Leon and Kato against Akino, Sato, and Hagane. And the Inoue lariat into the ropes and just pinning Hagane was hilarious. It's so bad. Kyoko Inoue is so done. She's so washed. Just her doing things like this and still pinning people is so bad. Best friends defeat Hozan and Yurika Oka. You know me, I'm very much on the Yurika Oka train. This is the best friends go away tour right now, and they got an excellent bout out of Ai Hozan, who I think desperately needs a wardrobe change and appearance change for what she's going for. And Yurika Oka, this was great. I recommend it. Cosmic Angels, Mina Shirakawa and Unagi. The Dirty Pair train continues. Haruka Umasaki and Rin Katakura, they go to a 15-minute draw. This was great, too. I loved it. Rin just being so annoyed with the draw on her face was fantastic stuff. The Chihiro Yu match against Maiko Ozaki and Mirai. This was the Mirai versus two people match. Maiko Ozaki was... she was such a non-factor in this match and so out of her element that her just standing on the apron made this match immediately better. And this was the best Yu match I've seen in years. She was motivated. Chihiro was motivated. They went out there and wrestled like they were in front of 2,000 people for the first time in ages. And it made me really question, since COVID started, are much of these wrestlers phoning it in because of the low attendance that's been around them for so long? And when they finally got in front of a larger crowd that was very happy to be there and see him, I'm wondering if people like Takumi Iroha and Chihiro and Yu and a lot of those other people just put in, let's say they put in less than 80% effort. I'm really questioning that. If you disagree with me, that's fine. But this match was so good, it made me, that really popped into my head there. And Mirai just looks great. More on Mirai when we get to Stardom. And the main event, Mayuki Ozaki, Starlight Kid teaming up against Nozaki, All Caps Saki, and Iroha. 29 minutes, 31 seconds this went. This was excruciating. It was so frustrating. It was a slow-ass Sekigun match with small interference. That wasn't even the bad part. It was just Nozaki selling forever. Maya Yukihi's Oz style is atrocious. It's not good to watch. It's so boring. You were very frustrated because nothing was happening. And Mayumi Ozaki, she does bump for people, and her with the chain at least brings something to the table, but Starlight Kid just hanging on the apron until the ending was aggravating. And I did laugh that the Shoe Pro cover of this show had only Starlight Kid on the front. That's great. And she got the pin against All Caps Saki. It wasn't until the last few minutes where anything mattered. I can't say it's one of the worst main events I've seen this year in terms of women's wrestling. I have definitely seen worse. It's going to be hard to beat that Akino Yukihi title match from Oz Academy. That is going to be tough. But this was definitely one of the worst. This is a top 5 candidate for worst main event match on a women's show this year. With that said, I think it's absolutely time to start Stardom talk. And you know what? I gotta bring up the Mirai Mayumi Stardom theme here. It has to be done. I can't cover Stardom Cinderella without Mirai's theme going. And I don't have it downloaded, so I'm just going to have to look on the YouTube here. And here's one. High quality. All right, let's see what you bring. And I'm going to play this for quite a bit as I drink some fluids. Got to stay hydrated. And get my timestamps going here. All right. I guess that's pretty good quality indeed. Stardom. Okay. Let's start with the attendance. They had 2,017 people show up to the Cinderella finals. And some context behind this needs to be done. Because, first of all, that's really good for Oda Ward, based on past attendances. They basically tied Noah at the Sumo Palace for their major show, and Noah in the mud. Holy shit. Barely 1,500 for the junior show, and 2,000 for the big one, with Fujita vacating the title due to COVID, and then just the backstage politics is hilarious. Nakajima got geeked out again. Like, the Noah versus Stardom talk continues. And I'll get into a little bit of the Dragongate there, but when I get to Dragongate specifically. But the context behind the 2017 number at Oda Ward for Stardom, for Cinderella Final specifically, is considered a big win. And here's why. Last year, they got about 1,200 at the show during COVID. And even then, that was a success because in the past, the Cinderella has never been this big drawing show. It's still a big show in terms of the Stardom universe and Joshi and all that, getting 800-900, but they really have never broken 1,000 before until last year. And for them to go out to this show and almost essentially double their usual attendances is a sign that this company is still growing and it's not slowing down. And I think one of their Korakuen shows actually drew well as well recently. Let's see here. There's Kyoto. Well, they did go into Kobe recently and sold that bitch out for $429, the largest attendance in that building during COVID. And that's something Dragongate hasn't been able to say in recent years. And here we go. April 17th, Korakuen Hall. They got 1151 for a Korakuen Hall, which was the second round of Cinderella, which was main evented by Saki Kashima. And for them to almost get as much as the 60th anniversary Joshi show also says a lot to the continuing rollout of Stardom's growth. So great success in attendances for Stardom lately. And as fans get more and more comfortable going out, and hopefully this Golden Week and getting into May kickstarts the culture of wrestling fans in Japan to really get out there, make noise, and let's get some energy into not just Stardom, but a lot of these promotions, because they definitely need it. Because even in Dragongate's case, I am ready for this promotion to kick off. I'm ready to see what they can do as well. All right, so the Cinderella tournament, second round. Let's see, we saw Natsupoi defeat Unagi in less than 5 minutes, which I was actually shocked when this occurred. because I had Hazuki Unagi. I didn't discount Mirai because of the role she's been on getting to the finals, but I was definitely more leaning towards Unagi getting to the finals with Hazuki. And as it turns out, supposedly, Bushiroad got in the Hatman's ear and said, "Hey, we like Natsupoi. How about you," he elbows him to the side, "why don't you give her a little push a little bit? Give her a W." And Hatman's like, well, Unagi's not winning this thing anyways. Why not? Who cares? It's one match kind of deal. So, outraged. The man is holding back Eel. The authority is against the Eel. I am assessing this. All right. So, Natsupoi beats Unagi in less than 5 minutes. It was fine, but my overall opinion on the Cinderella this year, I understand and I get the purpose of this tournament. It's to do one of two things. It is to either push a fresh new talent above their current standing, and they generally win the white belt, or at very least challenge for it, and you go from there. They usually win, and this year it was Mirai. As I jump ahead. And that's totally fair. And I'll get more on Mirai in a second. Where this tournament tends to fall short with me is more along the lines of, I want these matches to be a little bit longer and a little better. This year they decided to keep the over-the-top rule for the majority of the time until the finals, and the 10-minute time limit. And that really handcuffed a lot of these matches. And I really struggled for my own fandom, to get completely invested in everything. Because I think this roster is good enough where they can go the extra mile. Make it that 15-minute time limit. Make it a 20-minute time limit, like they did prior. And only have the over-the-top rope in the first round, and you can protect people a little bit better. In this case, I did feel like they protected people very well. It's the booking, at least with these constraints, don't really have much issue with it. I wouldn't have had Koguma in the finals, but I get the story. And at least my interpretation of the story is the last time Koguma was in the Cinderella, she made it to the finals, and I believe she lost to Mayu Iwatani. So she's a good tournament fighter in this case for Cinderella, and it played off her story of the past. Hey, okay, I can get into it. I just can't get into Koguma herself being at that level of wrestler in the realm of Stardom. I don't buy her as a main eventer. I don't buy her into the white belt scene or red belt scene. She's a good tag wrestler and high-speed wrestler, and that's where she's slotted, and I think that's good for her. Do I see someone like a Natsupoi or Hazuki much higher in that regard, and them? I even see Unagi ahead of Koguma, to be honest. I just think there's more appeal there, and so that's from my perspective and where Koguma herself slots, and she's got a good fan base to her. Her defeating Julia via over the top rope was fine. It's all good. Let's see, and then she defeated Saya Ida, which was expected, and Mirai defeated Saki, and the 17-second Saki Kashima Mayu Iwatani match was phenomenal. It's just in the realm of Stardom. It's just so accepted that Saki Kashima just will always have the number of like Mayu and Momo of the like. And you know what? A really good aspect of this Cinderella this year was highlighting a lot of the young, fresh talent that has come into this promotion, and the pushing of God's Eye. Shuri's new group split off. It is the new hotness of the promotion. It's keeping things fresh, and this is something Stardom does annually. Is there's a new group or new storyline, and you can point to Arisa Hoshiki coming back and kickstarting stars. You have Donald Del Mundo. Now God's Eye. Oedo Tai for a little bit there when Starlight Kid jumped over. So I understand it. and it's the new storyline, the new push, and that indeed keeps things fresh and exciting within the promotion. Ame Sourei looks great, and she is still in more or less her rookie phase, and it really looks like they're building her up to take the title from Hanan. And to be honest, it's probably time. She's kind of run through her story with that title. I don't think she's ready to be elevated above that yet, because especially considering she's still in school, I believe. But Ame Sourei is definitely that person that can carry that title, and that keeps her busy, and you don't need to protect her that much. And or maybe Miyu Amasaki could still have a chance at that title and go for it, or Momo Kogo could go for it as well. There's a lot of options just in that future title that you can go with, which is very interesting to me. I didn't expect to go on a little tangent about the future title. I usually just kind of hand wave it. But with a lot of fresh blood heading into it, there was a little excitement there. Waka should not win it. She should lose forever. I don't know why that's super appealing. Let's see here. So that was the Korakuen Hall show. Let's get to day 3 here. And no, that was Korakuen Hall. I clicked on the same thing. Yeah, okay. And then that took us to Kobe, Kyoto, and the final. Let's see if there's anything that stands out here at Kobe. 30-minute Artist of Stardom title match. Tam Nakano. Just, I will not take any slander from this woman. She is one of the best women's wrestlers in the world still. And she has been for the last couple years. And it's matches like this, and her ability to tell a story with anybody in the ring is fantastic. She, much of this match, didn't do much, but when it got to the end, and that second half in particular, was very good stuff. The God's Eye trio, throughout the last couple shows, it's a good establishment of them being strong. They are undefeated since the group has formed, which is another good story. They are going to clash with DDM in full eventually, and I almost expect either a DDM team or a God's Eye team to be the ones that take the let's see, you got Julia, Tekla, and Mai Sakurai. Could I realistically see them taking? No. I don't see them taking the titles. I actually see a 30-minute draw with that match too. God's Eye taking the trios titles. I think I'm nodding my head on that one. That appeals. That's appealing. That seems to work for the story. Kyoto, 518 attendance. More God's Eye, more Queen's Quest versus Cosmic Angels. Natsupoi defeated Ida. Yeah, good stuff. They're house shows. It's fine. And then the Cinderella tournament final. Ame Sourei won the trios dark match. Hanan defeated Hina in 6 minutes. Koguma defeats Hazuki in 6 minutes. Okay. Now, establishing Koguma's schoolboy with the bridge pin is fantastic. That is one thing about her booking and her in the ring that I do like. And I really thought this was going to be Hazuki's tournament to lose, or at least get to the finals. Because I absolutely understand the push of Mirai. And again, more on her in a second. But now I'm questioning the standing of Hazuki within this promotion. And it had me give some thought to, look, she's quit on this company twice. And does the promotion have the confidence to fully get behind her? Or do they see her simply as a good tag wrestler and someone that could hold up the high-speed division when they can call upon her once they kind of gone through their current stories with people like Azumi? That's very possible. I think a lot of fans, and myself included, definitely see Hazuki probably at the white belt level. And with her coming back to the promotion and getting that red belt title shot against Utami right out of the gate, I thought we were on the road to establishing Hazuki as a more upper mid-card main event player. I'm not saying she's going to win the red belt, but she could be in contention. And her goal of the white belt is very much inside her promos and character arc. Could this loss play into a future story where Hazuki can betray Stars and turn heel and do something along those lines? It's possible, but I didn't get that feeling coming out of this. She feels like a bread and butter babyface that simply lost to her tag partner, which was a good story, by the way. I did like that. And I did speculate on whoever came out losing this match was going to, the other person was going to eat the fall in the tag match when they go back and face Black Desire, the Starlight Kid Momo tag match. So I fully expect Koguma to eat the fall there in that match now. It would shock me if Hazuki eats a second straight pin. It wouldn't shock me if they go to a draw, honestly, due to the booking behind these two currently. So yeah, I'm really questioning the current standing of Hazuki in this promotion, and it's going to bring up a lot of good dialogue and a lot of good discussion where Hazuki's future lies in the tier system of Stardom. Because I'm really questioning if they see her that way or can trust her. And I'm wondering what is the highest level she can offer this promotion at its current time. And it wouldn't shock me if people start kind of lumping her in with the Momo dialogue, where it's a travesty she's not being pushed. This is just where she's slotted. It wouldn't shock me if that starts. And Are there arcs in the future around Momo and Hazuki at different levels? Momo red belt, Hazuki white belt. It's very possible, and it certainly could be down the line. But with people like Mirai coming in, and Mirai's probably the best example. Is she comes in, she gets a push out of the gate within 4 months of coming into this promotion, wins Cinderella. And where does that leave people like a Natsupoi or a Hazuki or a Momo? Maybe even a Starlight Kid. Maybe she's not ready for that upper card yet. That remains to be seen, but it does bring about questions over where do those people slot when you have a different crowd on the come up for what some fans could see as taking their spots. That's just a fan perspective. I myself am very much into my fandom lies. As long as there is a continual push of new talent and nothing gets stagnant or tiresome, or there's just whacked out booking that is baffling, you can't wrap your head around, then when you start getting angry about certain people not getting the title, like KZ and Dragongate's a great example. Just because he's my favorite and he's not getting the title doesn't mean I think his booking sucks. I think KZ's booking is generally very good within the realm of Dragongate. He's a protected leader of a faction. He's constantly getting shines in main event situations and the like. I really like Hazuki. I think she's one of the best in the promotion. I'd love to see her in the white belt mix sooner or later, and I really felt that now was a good time to do that, especially considering her history with the promotion and how she came in, and it's been like 7 months, 8 months. She came off winning Tag League, and they just lost the titles. It seemed like the right time to pull the trigger with Hazuki specifically. But as for the Mirai Natsupoi match, I think this was the best match of the tournament, and I was very happy with it. Only went 8 minutes. I would have definitely liked to seen it go. I think it still had the 10-minute time limit. I could be mistaken, but if it had the 10-minute time limit going 8 minutes, that's fine. Got no issue. I still thought it was the best match of the tournament. I would have really liked to have seen a match situation where they went 13, 14, 15 minutes, especially getting to this spot in a major tournament. Gauntlet match, 25 minutes. I thought it was nonstop fun. There was a lariat in there where Micah just decapitated people. Mina, Tam, and Unagi are just menaces when they came in. There's so much in this match to go over. I can't. The big angle that came afterwards were as the Cosmic Angels were celebrating their great win after Tam eliminated Julia. So, love it. Continue that story forever. Colors hits the ring, all 4 of them. And my, oh my, we got another freelance faction coming in to inject some interesting storyline. And of course, Unagi is going to assess the shit out of them. And I'm really excited to see Hikari Shimizu specifically in Stardom and what she can do. And the history between her and Tam is interesting because when Hikari went face-to-face with Tam, she kind of had this big smile on her face, broke out in a bit of tears, and they got history in Actress Girls. As in the fact that Tam is the one that essentially motivated Hikari Shimizu to be a wrestler, and when she came in and debuted, Tam was gone. And now they get to go face-to-face, and they're going to have a little program together. I'm into this. I'm into this Cosmic Angels color thing. It's got the Actress Girls background to go with it, and with Mina and Unagi coming from TJPW, they're kind of in their own thing, and the Unagi Mina train just doesn't stop. It's fantastic. They did the Diana thing. They exude so much personality in that ring that because Tam is the high worker of the trio, that her two dirty pair goons getting out there and causing mischief is fantastic. I'm so into what the Cosmic Angels bring, and they're so different than everyone else in Stardom. And that's what I really like. Azumi Mei Saruga, 13-minute high-speed title match. Look, anytime any of these high-speed title matches seem to happen on these pay-per-views, there's just so much discourse that comes from fans that just don't get it. It's getting phenomenally high marks. I'm not as high on it as I think most are. I went just under 4 stars, 2 out of 3 recommendation. I did very, very much enjoy it. It just didn't reach that peak that a lot of these high-end Stardom matches have gone to, and maybe that's a case of what I expect out of Stardom these days. And it's an indictment of the rest of the scene and not reaching a bar high enough that's now been set. But there's a wacky ref sequence between Mei and Oz. Look, Mei Saruga, she is tailor-made for Western television wrestling. She has that kind of personality. She has the ring game that brings out a lot of innovation and uniqueness, while Azumi is a straight-end wrestler. And if Azumi, to me, is going to break out of this high-speed division, she's got to start bringing in more than just this style. Now, I understand that high-speed matches are more or less meant to be this, but I know a lot of people are down on that Natsupoi Starlight Kid 30-minute high-speed title match draw from a few months ago. But here's the other reason why I think I liked it a lot more than others is because for those particular wrestlers to bring something not high speed to the table puts in my mind and my fandom that they are capable of main event type matches. The high speed title match is very much the cruiserweight title of Stardom. And if you're going to break out of the junior division, if you will, you got to be willing to put on a different type of match than what we see here on occasion. I'm not saying this was the match to do that. It's just my opinion and observation for Azumi specifically, if she's going to break out of this role and get to a place that a lot of people see her as, which is a future main event player. I have personally never seen main event player out of her if she continues this style consistently. And that's through trios matches, tag matches, and other singles matches, which we see in, say, the 5-star, which she never breaks out of this style. Mei Saruga I see as more versatile, and if you're a comedy-type wrestler, naysayer, negative Nancy about it, Mei Saruga, I don't see her as a Stardom prospect. I see her as more of an AEW-type prospect. That's where I see her future as. This match was good. I think the mess rolling sequence at the end kind of soured it a bit on me for that, because if you're going to do a lot of those quick roll finishes and you're not smooth, it's almost like it's bad lucha libre, where it really brings the match down for me. But a lot of people are high on it, and it's got an 8.73 on Cage Match right now, almost 4.5 stars. I think that's pretty absurd. But anyways, Mirai defeats Koguma in just under 12 minutes. This kind of underwhelmed for the most part. Koguma doing the bear pose in a Cinderella final. I mean, this was definitely better than that Natsuka Tora Cinderella final match from a couple years ago. That was one of probably the worst ones I've seen. But Koguma doing the comedy in a tournament final is a big no for me. You do not bring comedy into main event type slots. And yes, this was technically the semi-main, but you get where I'm driving at. But yeah, Mirai wins definitively, no question. Maybe they didn't want to burn off a Mirai Hazuki big match that was going to be limited on time a little bit, but I just don't understand the waiting game there. And maybe they didn't want to burn off a Hazuki losing in a tournament final and deplete her stock, so to say, if you want to go a little bit further into it and trying to break down the booking. But regardless, Mirai wins. She comes out at the end of the show in the dress. Very beautiful, bright, deep blue type thing. Look, the struggle was real with Mirai. She was really struggling to walk in this thing, and looks like it was a size too tight for her in the chest area, because there was so much like being careful with Mirai in this dress. I was cracking up. I was dying. But good for her. Good for Mirai. I'm into Mirai. Like a year, it was like a year ago. I was crying for the heavens in TJPW. Like, what are we doing with this woman? She has so much potential. She's like way far ahead in the ring than like 80% of your roster. You desperately need fresh main eventers, and she was still beating only rookies, barely winning and getting winning falls and tags, and she was getting her head kicked off by Miyu Yamashita in shitty shoot fights, or fake shoot fights, if you will. And even if you know a person's contract is coming up and they're not re-signing, there is no reason to not book them strong and make money with them. I don't understand why so many promotions out there just don't get this. Like, you have this person for X amount of time, so then you can tell a story with them during that time. It's called booking the territory, essentially. You want to bring someone in for a limited time. You have the story that you want to do with them, and when they lose, they're gone. It's almost like it's almost like that's preferred. And with a lot of interpromotional work these days, there's just so much issues with like Impact Wrestling and Noah and all these instances where all they want to do is tell like a single match story and then they're done, or they just let the person flounder in the undercard telling no stories at all. It's just to them, it's good enough that they're on the card. And for me as a fan, that's more annoying because you're not doing anything with them. I'm like, why do you have Jay White not in major roles or built up to be in major roles? And Mirai and TJPW was very much an example of that. Maybe in their minds, they thought she'd re-sign. But with her talent and what she was able to show throughout this tournament, look, Mirai was the MVP of the Cinderella tournament, and she won it. She got the biggest. It was her tournament, and you didn't even know it, because you'd think, based on Joshi wrestling and the past, that a person that just comes into the promotion and immediately gets a title shot and loses, maybe it's not her time. Maybe it's too soon situation. But here now we have a situation where Mirai got the big push out of the gate. It's now having, at least in the neck of the woods that I peruse and see online, that there's two sets of fans. There are fans that are set that people like Hazuki didn't win, or Koguma, or the like. And that same group is mad that Mirai has essentially jumped the line over their favorites. But then there's the second tier people that look at Mirai winning, and it's an indictment of TJPW not being able to break out of their stagnant main event scene. Now, there is an interesting discussion in a number of places that I've seen, whether it's Reddit or the Voices of Wrestling chat, which I mostly don't recommend being a part of, for the Joshi wrestling anyways. But even in our own group, where it's the difference between a slow push and a rocket push. And a couple of the comments from various people, and even Scott U Wrestling, I think touched on this as well on the 5-Star Joshi podcast. I haven't heard Alex talk about it quite yet on Stardom Quest, but if you believe in somebody and they're there at their current skill that you think is good enough to main event or semi-main event, then you rocket strap them. There's no sense in waiting. You know, that's the Okada theory, we'll call it. Then there's the other aspect where you see the potential, but they're not quite ready to be pushed. Then there's the slow burn. Let's call that the Jungle Boy theory. Okay? They're giving Jungle Boy, AEW is giving Jungle Boy a lot of highlights and giving him big wins, but he still loses the bigger matches. And they're making a story out of it, and that's the slow burn. So eventually he can win something like the TNT title, or beat a big veteran like a Christian, which is where a lot of people see it. Mirai is obviously in that Okada theory, where she was brought in, she lost immediately in a high-end match to prove herself, and now she's won the Cinderella tournament. And now this really questions whether or not how that... I don't think it matters, personally, how that Saya Kamitani-Micah match ends up. Whether they go to a draw, Saya wins, or Micah wins. Any one of those three results, I could see Mirai immediately defeating either Micah or Saya Kamitani. And we get a short run from Micah, like a single match, not even one defense in. Or Saya wins and immediately loses to Mirai. And I said before that Saya Kamitani, coming out of the double Sumo Hall shows, Sumo Palace shows, she's a made woman. I could see her losing that title to Mirai, and she's fine. And she could be now put in red belt contention. Because that's where Saya Kamitani kind of is at this point. I'm not saying that the white belt is, like, she's above the white belt, because no one's truly above the white belt. White belt is its own entity within Stardom, and it is a main event type title. So I'm very excited to see the prospect of Mirai, and I'm way into this white belt scene and where they go forward. They definitely have another person in there that slots in great, and I hope, from my fandom, that Hazuki isn't in that slotted spot that I fear that she is. And then Shuri Himika, 21 minutes, 24 seconds. Shuri defeats her. This took a while to get going for me. They did eventually start throwing bombs at each other, which was much better in that later end of the second half. And the Himika concussion bomb near fall was great. I really enjoyed that. I thought the finish came off a little flat. I only went 2 out of 3 on this match. Definitely one of the weaker red belt matches, defenses I've seen in quite some time, in my opinion. But that could also be on me with not really buying into Himika all that much. I don't see her as a main eventer. I think she's kind of in her role with as a tag team, as an enforcer in the trios situation. I think that's a good spot for her. Her getting a match like this, I got no issue with. I did feel that they may have dropped the ball on the build of Himika Shuri a little bit. It definitely felt like second tier away from everything. It really felt like the last month or so, ever since coming out of Sumo Palace, that they used the Cinderella tournament this time to kind of step back and take a break and rest a little bit, even though that they were still drawing well on a lot of these cards. It's been a little bit since we got a big Stardom type show. And while I think the show delivered on a lot of ways, from the match perspective, I did not get my full marks 3 out of 3 throughout that. My gauge on the fandom was very satisfied with the show and how it was able to perform and what it was able to accomplish. I think I think the booking wise, it accomplished what it needed to. I got no issue with that. I got a little message here. What's going on? What's going on here? Who's messaging me? Oh, okay. All right. I think that does it for Stardom Talk. And it'll be time to get into the men's wrestling. So I'm going to take a little break. You are only going to hear the drop. And then we'll be back for more. All right. So I took a long break, and here we are for, I guess, the male wrestling speed run, because it is getting late, and I don't really have a whole lot of thoughts, at least booking-wise, until some major events actually occur here throughout a lot of these companies. So we're just going to go over a little results, and I'll have some quips here and there along the way. Dragongate, Korakuen Hall, April 25th. They drew 886, which is their second biggest attendance for them this year. It's going to be interesting as the road to Dead or Alive is finally here, which is taking place on May 5th. And I do have those cards, and the King of Gate announcement for that kicks off May 11th. But for that Korakuen Hall show, just a couple matches to go over, which is the Decourage, which is Dragon Dyad, Yuki Yoshioka, and Susumu Yokosuka took on Z-Brats, Diamante, Kai, and SP Kento. Went to a time limit draw, 15 minutes. Very solid stuff. It's building up the Twin Gate match and the Yokosuka Kai match at Dead or Alive, and more on that in a second here. So, good building match, good primer. I wish Dragongate would definitely do more of these. The fact it was in the opener was kind of strange, but they've been doing that a lot this year. I am very much over and done with the mystery cards prior to the show, outside of like one match. They need to get over that by now. It's actually quite frustrating as a fan to want to invest and keep up with this when I just don't know what's really going on half the time. And there's a few of the house shows in between now and the last couple weeks have been better. So I feel like the Dead or Alive card, ever since the Kness retirement show, they're finally back on track for what they want to do. So I'm excited for Dragongate to stop spinning their wheels here. And the main event was the 9-man tag team 3-way elimination match for the rights to woo Jason Lee over to their side. And so it was Natural Vibes, JFK, KZ, and Shimizu taking on Z-Brats, BB Hulkyo, and Skywalker, and the high-end trio of Benkei, Kagetora, and Yamato. It only went 17 and a half minutes. And I thought KZ, Shun Skywalker looked phenomenal in this match. I'm really excited about JFK still going forward. I think he is kind of my favorite young guy on the roster, just from me. And what happens here is Yamato actually takes a rare pinfall as both Skywalker and Shimizu kind of take this guy out, which was interesting. It went almost 15 minutes before the first fall. And then quite quickly, it ended with a situation of a double pin to end the match as Kamai pinned Hyo, and Skywalker on the side rolls up Shimizu. So yeah, double pin situation, very interesting booking strategy there, but it ends up making a lot of sense in how it happened. It was just kind of strange. Earlier in the night, it had Jason Lee kind of semi-turning heel on his countryman, Ho-Ho Loon. And with Skywalker's continuing thinking Jason Lee is his property and his, it's been an interesting way how Skywalker's maintained this just amazing heel work that he's been doing and keeping in this character. And it hasn't detracted from a lot of his matches either. It's just kind of anything involving Hyo and Kai leads to more of those DQs type situations. And what ends up happening is KZ gets on the mic. He's trying to convince Jason Lee over to Natural Vibes. And even Jackie Funky Kamai speaks some Chinese to get Jason Lee over. And then, well, all Shun Skywalker has to say is Jason Lee's mine. He cares. That's the extent of kind of the convincing. And Jason Lee, in fact, joins Zebrats at the end, which was not entirely shocking based on the character work the last few shows of Jason Lee. But prior to any of that, if you kind of came into this show without watching any house shows and skipped the Jason Lee match earlier, it would be very surprising to see how Jason Lee going through all of the heel turns along the way with Shun Skywalker in particular, for him to just kind of agree and shake hands with him. And that ends that kind of mini arc that was happening, and then we get the setup for Dead or Alive, and just running down the card here, we got D-Courage against Skywalker and Diamante, so maybe Jason Lee somehow gets involved there. Could definitely see a Twin Gate title change, for sure. As much as I like D-Courage and what they've done openers throughout this first quarter of the year, could be time to get the Twin Gates off of Dragon Dia and company. Then we got some mid-card filler type stuff. We got Madoka Kakuta. So Hip Hop Kakuta had returned earlier in April, and he attacked Hyo, and this is stemmed from Skywalker joining RED/Zebrats, and Kakuta's mad that the dude who injured him last year is in there, and they would kind of take him under their wing. So he's going under the guise that he's restarting his career of sorts, and he's dropped the hip hop part. Now he's Madoka Kakuta, and he's starting fresh. And he's look, he's only 22. He's got plenty of time, and I like this move. Zebrats is very much filled at this point, and I think he has a lot to offer with those groups of like Fujiwara and company to get started again. So he's got a match with JFK against BB Hulk and Hyo. Like that match, I'm into it. And then we have Natural Vibes High End Trios match. Jason Lee is somehow in this Trios match here. Very strange how that fits in, but here we are. That might be changed, actually, on day of. Who knows? But open the Brave Gate match is Dragon Dia and SB Kento, so Dia is pulling double duty here. If Dragon Dia is losing one of these titles, if not both, on this day, and SB Kento getting the Brave Gate just seems to fit right now, so I guess in my prediction, Dragon Dia is losing both these belts. Get some fresh talent to hold them and do some new stories. So the odds are stacked against Dia, so it does protect him in a way. Open the Triangle Gate match. It is Gold Class taking on the invading trio of Los Perros, which I expected coming out of the last Korakuen show and Kyoto show, that it is in fact Eita in the Paros group with Nosawa Rongai and Kotaro Suzuki. I'm not into more Nosawa outside of the Noah nonsense that it's there, but yeah, this was definitely the vibe I was getting with Eita, that because he is still a heel and he didn't want to let go of RED and his continuing relationship within Noah, it makes sense to bring in Paros like this, and he's still a heel and doing the work. They were the Metal Warriors, and that's just how it worked out. So I don't think Peros is taking these titles at all. Eita's coming off the loss at the Noah Sumo Palace show, and I believe he ate another fall in Noah on the second night. And then open the Dream Gate match, Kai against Susumu Yokosuka. If Susumu loses, he must leave Natural Vibes and rename himself Susumu Mochizuki. This is a case where I see Yokosuka beating Kai in this case. It just feels right. Get this title off Kai. He's been an extremely underwhelming champion. They haven't done much with him at all. The stories are pretty lame. The Shimizu match was pretty good. I did like that. But the story going in was definitely... I mean, he did beat Kai a lot, and he was... I don't know, it was hard to buy Shimizu in that sense of a title change, but coming off of the Kness retirement match and Yokosuka being built up, coming off that, I think this has been better, but I guess we'll find out. And then King of Gate was announced. Essentially, it's a 32-man elimination bracket. It's just like the New Japan Cup. And there's some very good first-round matchups, particularly Madoka Kikuta against SB Kento. We got Kaito Ishida and Yokosuka. Let's see. KZ Kota Minoura, which is something I'm extremely interested in. And Eita against Shun Skywalker is also super interesting. So King of Gate looks strong. Shun Skywalker could be... I mean, if he's going to win the Twin Gate, he could lose. Yeah, I don't have a feeling for who's going to win King of Gate this year. Don't really know. I guess Dragon Dia, if he's losing both titles and they want to continue his push, then I guess he's a candidate, but they seem really married to the idea of this Decouraged duo. And, well, I guess if Yokosuka loses and he has to change his name, he could join the Decouraged group and be a trio. That's always an option. Because Decouraged needs guys, and there's a lot of rookies that need places as well to call home. So that's an option as well. And in that case, Shun Skywalker has a chance to be high up there. I guess Eita could win King of Gate. That's always an option too. There's a lot of options on the table for good old Dragongate. Get ready. And the attendances are going to be super interesting going forward. It's their second biggest show of the year, is Dead or Alive. So you kind of expect over 3,000, if I'm being honest. But I guess I'd have to look at what the recent Dead or Alive shows have drawn in and out of COVID. But I guess it's time to throw on some AEW New Japan speak and get going here. Here we go. Okay, well, let's begin with the Forbidden Door talk. I'll keep this short and sweet. Have no clue what this card is even going to look like. It could be a bunch of trios matches and 8-man tags, and I think you have to have 2 or 3 big built singles matches for this card, and whether that's like an Okada CM Punk type match. The politics is going to be interesting to see who drops falls and how and why. AEW has the advantage on this, I feel, especially because New Japan is trying to get their mark back in the U.S. market. They are the third top company in the country, even with very low old television type ratings there. But in terms of ticket sales, like, they draw more than Impact Wrestling. That's a fact. They draw kind of the same for television tapings, but when it comes to the big shows, just looking at like Rebellion compared to Windy City Riot, it's not close. New Japan doubles and sometimes triples Impact ticket sales. So fans of this podcast are probably much more interested in what Stardom involvement could be, and there's going to be no involvement for Stardom, at least on this show. And with the more or less damage that's been done to the AEW women's division on screen in 2022, and including the past, of course, you're starting to see some rectifications of that, maybe, due to the Becky Lynch comments. There's some funny theories. I was kind of sporting around that Tony Khan is like, oh, yeah? Well, okay, we're just going to throw him in more main events than you now, and hopefully push more talent. The Jade Cargill baddies thing is definitely very good. But back to Stardom here. This is a strictly AEW and New Japan show. And we don't even know if they want to have like a trios women's match or get Mayu Iwatani on the card for one singular match. I mean, it wouldn't hurt anything, but honestly, I, as a fan, don't want Stardom involved with a show dedicated for a specifically New Japan crossover. You could always do something of note later in the year and have more of a mixture card. And there's word out of Stardom that they want to make their big Sumo Palace December 30th show kind of off the heels of Wrestle Kingdom and get foreign fans involved in those ticket sales. And that is along the lines of something that would actually benefit Stardom, is getting AEW talent for that specific show. And that's kind of what the word is out of there. There have been no talks between the two promotions of in particular of Stardom and AEW. It doesn't mean there can't be stuff later. And what Stardom cares about right now is their domestic market and how they can get tickets sold for that. The prospect of exposed eyeballs for Stardom World is simply where it's at now, and having some wrestlers show up on AEW isn't really going to increase those to any significant making where it's seemingly worth it to take wrestlers off their own house shows. Because until Stardom can start getting into the ticket sales in the mark of what like New Japan was when Okada got that title and they came out of their own little dark age, there's a lot of similarities to be had there between where Joshi Wrestling is in Stardom's case out of this low-end indie market into some serious contention for ticket sales. Because even though they're getting 2,000-3,000 for big shows right here, until they can start getting about 5,000 plus on the regular for domestic market, it's almost not even worth taking their concentration off of that. And as they gain popularity, getting to that point, international fans will naturally vibe and get into the product just on word of mouth alone and more matches like the Utami Shuri, rather than kind of ignoring their domestic market to focus on fans that may or may not even be interested because of things like culture differences and language barriers and the like. And that's something TJPW and DDT kind of need to get a handle on. They just, if AEW says jump, Cyberfight says how high, and that's just how that works. I mean, there was word that Yuka Sakazaki is coming back to AEW, and that is the day that they have their tag title defense in TJPW. Luckily, she can do the show and then leave afterwards to AEW, but that's the kind of talk that they need to work on, while Stardom really has a handle on what their business goals are currently, and they're going to do what's best for them and not bend over backwards for AEW. And I do not only do I respect that, I appreciate that as a fan of Stardom. So as the year goes on and we start getting more shows, I guess the real quote-unquote super show for AEW Cross Stardom would be on Stardom's behalf, not AEW's behalf. Because think of it this way, if AEW does an all-women show, that's not drawing shit. That's not doing anything. While a Stardom is already an all-women show, and they can bring in various AEW wrestlers, and that would do much more in terms of business. So, there's that. And until we have a card announced, we won't really know what the Forbidden Door is going to look like. Obviously we can make all kinds of dream matches in our heads for what it is, but let's wait and see how this plays out, what to expect for it. As for what AEW has been doing lately, Adam Cole, Hangman Page, another good title match. I did like the finish where Page set Cole up with the Thorn Crown on Good Friday. That was kind of cool. But let's see here, what else has been going on as I look up. Battle of the Belts 2 is where we had recorded just before that had happened, and I liked Nyla Rose, Thunder Rosa match. It was quite solid. I only went 1 out of 3. I think it was the best they probably could have done in the amount of time that they had. The build was absolute trash, and Thunder Rosa's essentially been off TV this entire time. Her entire title run, she's been basically absent from television, and it's pretty much what we expect right now. Unless it's Britt Baker, you're not on TV. And let's see. And the only other thing of note for the women is the very good Shida Serena Deeb Philly Street fight. And again, the crowd was not very reactive to the women. And the look, I spoke about this on the last podcast. The damage has been done to this division, and it's going to take some serious work to get these women to have reactions for their matches again. And it doesn't matter who it is. And that's sad to see, because that Deeb Shida match I was super into. I almost went 2 out of 3 on it. I stuck near the 1 because I think that match was missing things like blood and something to really take it over the edge. But I did like the finish. I did like the knee work on Shida that played it directly into their story from the very beginning. Look, this is the blueprint for how AEW needs to book women's feuds. Make it about wrestling. Make it about the rivalry. Make it about something important, and do a series of multiple matches against good opponents and your good wrestlers, and keeping green talent off TV until they're ready, essentially. So in that aspect, it's good. And they directly teased and showed Thunder Rosa looking at Serena Deeb, and that's great. That's a Double or Nothing match. That's a prior. That's good stuff into that. Let's see here. Anything else going on? Various Owen qualifying matches. Let's see. Clicked on a Rampage. Yep. Okay. Already spoke about Paige Cole. Let's go to the next Dynamite and Rampage from Pittsburgh. Let's see here. CM Punk defeated Dustin Rhodes. Wardlow. Hey, look, Wardlow MJF feud. It's chugging along. It's good stuff. Wardlow's killing dudes, and now he's having matches killing dudes. W. Morrissey was teased for next Dynamite. I don't care how good he's doing in Impact. I have no interest in 7 feet tall. Can't teach that guy. I will never be into him, no matter how much he improves. I am not a fan. The Darby Allin Andrade coffin match was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed fucking Jose coming down, ripping his shirt off, being all jacked, and then Darby just geeks him out on the thumbtack coffin. Good stuff. Lots of interference, as expected. Kyle O'Reilly defeated Jungle Boy. Good loss, and it's going to play more into the slow burn for Jungle Boy singles run, and I'm down with that. Let's see. And then to Rampage, Adam Cole defeated Ishii. That was good. Kingston Garcia. Tough to get into that one a lot. You could tell a good chunk of the match was cut out. Cargill, Marina Shafir was not as bad as I thought it would be. They look, AEW still excellently protects Jade Cargill and makes her matches uber protective to what she can do, and she always busts in a new move here or there. Remains to be one of the best booked and match structured women in North America. I very much enjoyed the match. I liked what it brought. The Cargill bicycle kick on the outside and throwing Shafir to the table. Good stuff. Never want to see Marina Shafir in a AEW ring ever again. With all that said. Okay, so we went over Pittsburgh, went a bit over Philadelphia, and that'll actually take us, let's see, so Rampage, yeah, Darby Allin, Strickland was solid. Didn't like the finish, didn't like the interference that they needed to do there. Samoa Joe, Trent Beretta, they're continuing the Joe Joe and Jay Lethal feud. I already spoke about the baddies being great. I'm way into that. Dax and Cash did it in an Owen Hart and Bret Hart tribute type match with various famous Bret Hart matches. It was much like that FTR Young Bucks tag match where it was an homage to all the big tag teams. It was exactly like that. Went 15 minutes. It was quite good. Very interested to see how Dax is booked into the future of the Owen Hart tournament. I really wish that they would have a bracket released by now. It's definitely not indicative of like Japanese wrestling. It's just a lot of random dudes picked out of a hat, seemingly, for qualifying matches. Same thing for the women. And I know they're going to have a bracket eventually, but it would have been nice to have like a pool of names to choose from or to see that would be qualifying, and then you could do the bracket. That way you at least have an idea of who's in it and drum up more interest rather than this random hat that thing that we're doing. I think that would have been help. It just comes across as week-to-week booking until you get to May, and then you finally is like, oh shit, we have a tournament to do. So don't be surprised if like some of these women's matches end up on YouTube, unfortunately, because they just waited too long. Scorpio Sky, Sammy Guevara. Okay. First of all, thank God Guevara and Conti officially turned heel. They had the double turn the previous week. And Scorpio Sky and Dan Lambert and company are now baby faces, which I'm not into. But as the ladder match, I was never into, and I didn't think it was all that great. The structure in how to what it did for the characters, I think, was phenomenal. Because it did work in the end of what they were going for. And then Kazarian comes out and he looks like he's ready to challenge for the TNT title. And if there's one thing they need to do is now separate Guevara from the TNT title completely. He can go off doing his own heel shtick with Conti after they do this Scorpio Sky or Ethan Page mixed tag. We need to get this TNT title back on track. The hot potato thing has very much diminished this title into mid-card territory, which it never felt like that prior. It always felt like a very much high-end main event type title, and due to this Sammy Guevara nonsense that they were absolutely booking as a babyface, and it turned out so bad in 2022 that even if you enjoy the matches, it's not being booked as anything other than a mid-carder. And let's not pretend that Scorpio Sky and Guevara are any sort of draw for AEW on television. Their quarter hours don't pop and they don't stay. It's the opposite of how like Darby Allin and company have been in the similar situation with the TNT title. So we need to get like Danielson or some main eventer to get this title sooner rather than later. And but as for the turning heel part, that's a very welcome event. Okay, so now we can go into New Japan talk a little bit. I suppose I can play a drop for the Nuge. Which one do I choose here? Let's see. Oh, and one last comment on AEW. We need to get the champions on TV more. This is kind of ridiculous. I know I get that there's a lot of different champions, but let's pick at least 3 that we can see and do angles with all the time. And the world champion, the women's champion, and the tag champions. Those are your main 3. And then all the others can come and go less frequently Like, it seems like it's the opposite right now. Jade Cargill, part of Rampage, is a good little shtick, and you can kind of keep the TBS title on there, but it's kind of ironic that Dynamite's on TBS and Rampage is on TNT. It almost seems like it should be the other way around. But yeah, we need the champions on television. So, okay. New Japan. I'll play Okada. Why not? Okay, so just short thoughts over Windy City Riot. Look, people that bought this thing on Fight had a hell of a time with this. That is unacceptable for a promotion that's trying to be a major league player in the United States. You need to stop being minor league with how you have production and let's get some real production value in New Japan Strong and these pay-per-view shows that you're making us pay for. Otherwise, do what Buddy Omega from Discord does and just buys it directly from Japanese, and we get that feed. And it lost feed, and we had to refresh it a number of times during the show. But the Fight TV crew had a hell of a time where it was unwatchable. USFJ Challenge is ongoing. Pretty good stuff, but a lot of people seem to not like the Shota Umino match with his ties with Moxley. The Ishii-Suzuki match was exactly what you want out of those two. People are going like 4.5 stars on it. It was phenomenal stuff. Ishii wins, and more on Ishii in a second. So that was good in the New Japan universe. And I thought the street fight sucked, by the way. It just went on forever. It was like 25 minutes. It's terrible. Moxley defeats Ospreay and it continues the referee story in New Japan where Ospreay gets screwed and fast counted on his thing, so it's playing off the Sonata match and the match after with Zack. So the match was fantastic. Moxley bleeds inside 3 minutes. It's a match of the year candidate, but not with that finish. You can't really. You have to go with the story, and this could play into Forbidden Door if they want to do a rematch there or something, and Ospreay beats Moxley. But I fully expect Moxley to kind of be in the U.S. title mix for that kind of show. And let's see, anything else notable on that show? Lawler defeats Nagata. That was solid, but Dontaku is going to be happening as this releases, but Okada Naito for the title. I could see a Naito title change here. I really could. Otherwise, it looks like you're probably going to get someone like Ospreay Okada at Dominion. So I'm not totally discounting a Naito title change. It's not out of the realm of possibility. I'm still leaning towards Okada just beating him and we move on. But let's keep that in the back of your head. Tanahashi Ishii, it was supposed to be Ospreay, but Ospreay can't compete because of COVID. And that's disappointing, because if it was Tanahashi Ospreay, I fully expected Ospreay to win this thing and go over and successfully defend it against guys like Moxley and be on Forbidden Door. But now I expect Tanahashi to fully win this. No way Ishii's winning. He's a placement holder. So, but at least it works in booking that he gets the title shot because he did come off the bigger U.S. win recently against Suzuki, where they just chopped and forearmed the shit out of each other. Desperado Ishimori for the junior title. Probably Desperado wins. And then, let's see. And then the rest is kind of fodder Dotaku matches. Okay. Is that already the end of New Japan? Is that all I got to say? I guess Boss J's coming up. Best of the Super Juniors is coming up as we outlook towards Capital Collision, which is Eddie Kingston, Ishii. And then Moxley called out Tanahashi, so they could do that on May 14th. And then on May 15th is the start of Best of the Super Juniors, which sounds to me like we could be getting Dante Martin, maybe Darby Allin, and maybe Bandito in this thing, along with guys like Chris Bay. from Impact, who's part of Bullet Club. So the prospect of what Best of the Super Juniors could look like this year is fantastic, and I really hope it turns out that way. And with that, I guess it's time to go into just a little bit of WXW talk, and I want to play Lucky Kid's theme. It's been a long time for the guy. WXW, We Love Wrestling 30. We're on the road to their next shows, and I spoke in the last podcast episode that I was kind of confused with the main event booking here surrounding Jurn Simmons, Tristan Archer, and what exactly they're going to do with Axel Tischer. And it seems that maybe they don't know what they're doing, or they are really trying to take advantage of house shows and building up interest again as they go to like Hamburg and the like. But it looks like we're in the midst of building a strong mid-card with guys like Maggot, Norman Harris, Igel Blanc, Senza Volto, and who else would be in that? I think Lawrence Roman maybe, and I don't know if Fast Time Muto. I'd like to see him be built for the main event, personally. Well, I guess you could do Dreisker against some of those upper mid-carders. Maybe they want to do Dreisker in the main event as a heel. It's very strange, but from that We Love Wrestling 30, Maggot defeated Norman Harris in the lottery match. Blanc defeated Volto in 17 minutes. This was good. They know each other well, both French after all. Heisenberg defeats Oscar by countout. That kind of sucked. I didn't like that much. The women's title is just terrible right now. Baby Allison just doesn't have the ring game up. And the Ava Everett rematch was 6.5 minutes of just ass. But the main event was good. It was Bobby Guns, Jurn Simmons, Michael Knight. And Bobby Guns and Michael Knight are now known as Only Friends, and they have the OnlyFans logo to it all. It's kind of good. They defeated Rot and Flot with Tristan Archer, a 22-minute main event. It was essentially an indie Lucha Libre-esque match, just hitting big shit and big moves, being cool. Tristan Archer is definitely one of the top heels in the company right now, and it looks like they're keeping him. So even though Jurn Simmons just beat him for the title in that multi-man match, which I scratched my head at, why would you have Tristan Archer have this big win at 16 karat and then he's just this uber transitional champion? My only running theory is to keep Jurn Simmons in the title picture without having to beat him too much. Because even though right now in WXW they have enough main eventers, they've been blowing through their big matches more and more. And I believe Mario Salani could be out of the promotion, because I think he's wrestling for GWF now in Berlin, and that would be sad to me, because I really like Alani, and I don't know, he has injuries, and he seems to have attitude issues. He gets suspended. He's been suspended a couple times, and all those types of characters really fall away out of WXW, and they head to the Berlin promotion when they just can't get along with management and guys like Tassio Young and company, who's kind of more in charge of it. But I'm very curious to see what the future of Tristan Archer and Jurn Simmons, how that plays out as we head into the summer. And I haven't seen We Love Wrestling 31, but I have seen the results. That comes out on the network in a few days upon this podcast release, and I believe that's where the Archer-Simmons rematch is happening. I haven't seen the result of that. I've only seen that Maggot has like 2 title matches on the same show, and he wins both. I want to know what's happening with Fast Time Muto, even though they're the tag champions. and what the role is going to be for a lot of these mid-carders trying to establish themselves in the promotion. Okay, I guess that's enough WXW. It's going to be time to get into the retro section. Okay, so we're at 39 minutes here. Excellent stuff. Making good time. Getting my drop ready, and we can move on. Here we go. And welcome to AJW Destiny part. It's episode 67. You can find these episodes and the classics on Puroso Dreams Google Drive and Samurai TV and various other sources. But yes, it's January 4th, 1993, and I'm doing a double shot here. It's essentially the two big January shows from 1993. The first one here takes place at Korakuen Hall, capped attendance of 2,000. Maybe a little bit more believable, considering that there was not an empty slot in this house. It looked like they even had a few more rows very much closer to the ring at Korakuen Hall, and people were shoulder to shoulder in hard. A little bit more believable than like some of those LLPW shows where they say there's 2,100 people there, and you just see like a ton of empty seats hard campsite. But look, we're at the beginning now of the interpromotional era. And we're getting LLPW involved later this month. And I believe this is the setup for Suzuka Minami to hit up LLPW in February. And that kickstarts a little injection into LLPW itself. And we're getting dangerously close. I believe in April, we're going to be setting up the Akira Hokuto, or we're getting the Akira Hokuto Shinobu Kandori match, which is a legendary match that I can't wait to cover on this podcast here. But if you want to listen to more LLPW stuff, throughout 93, I'm almost done with 1993 with LLPW. You can head on over to the Patreon and check those out. Just get into a lot of big interpromotional shows at the end of 93. So now would be a perfect time to sign up, catch up on all those past shows, and hit me up, and I can share those shows I've bought with you guys. So on this show, Bull Nakano has officially gone part-timer after dropping the title and finishing out 1992. Now the era of the cross-promotional cards has officially started. Dream Rush kicked off with JWP inside the AJW ring with a bang. And coming up later this month in January, on 24th, also at Korakuen Hall, it's LLPW's first involvement now. Which also means, of course, I've already spoken about Kandori Hokuto. And surprise, surprise, after I cover classic number 67 here on this podcast, we're getting to those three important matches on January 24th. So, this is just a classic episode. We got Suzuka Minami and Terry Powers taking on and shockingly defeating the LCO team of Etsuko Mita and Mima Shimoda. Phenomenal, hilarious Terry Power. She does a Shawn Michaels sequence at the end, and then on like the third one, she gets kicked out of the ring. Shimoda botches going to the top, and she audibles and does a flipping senton instead. Very funny. We get a big tilt-a-whirl power slam by Terry Powers, which gets a big pop from the crowd. Tags in Suzuka Minami for a top rope senton, smashing and whiplashing her own head into the mat hard, and she pins Shimoda. So very surprising result, and I did like the match. Terry Powers, I thought she was going to be only in AJW for that summer, and they never book her again. But here we are in the beginning of 93, and she's still kicking around. How do you like that? And she's gotten a little bit better. She's learning the ropes a little bit more and more. And I sure hope after like 8 months at AJW you get better. But here we are. Crowd still pops for her. They like her strength. They like her look. She's very different. Big scary gaijin thing going on. All-Pacific title match happens after that. It's Akira Hokuto in full demon mode these days with this white belt. She's taken on Debbie Malenko, and she beats her in 13 minutes, 38 seconds. Best Debbie Malenko match I've ever seen. And yes, I've seen the Debbie Malenko Masha Slamovich match, and that was acceptable. It was fine. But yeah, they were jumpy and springy out there. Small mistimed moves and receipts to follow, but it led to there was a point in the match where Debbie locks in a gnarly armbar, and it looks like Hokuto was really going to tap. That's how well sold this was, and how it was built with Debbie coming to this point. And there's a couple more quick submission attempts to buy into Debbie even more, but ultimately she falls to, I don't know what this move's called, but we're going to call it the Gaijin Killer now. It's like a spinning torture rack with the legs folded on top into a fisherman-esque slam. It's just wild. But yeah, Hokuto did super well to get this up to the point it did. And then in the main event, semi-main event, it's IWA World Title match. So Manami Toyota with this is taking on Saki Hasegawa. And this goes almost 24 minutes. And Toyota was out to end a life in this thing. Whether it was hers or Saki Hasegawa's, she was definitely out there. Because she drop kicks the face of Hasegawa, and Hasegawa's spin kicking Toyota's face into two parts. This is where Toyota's like, okay, I've had enough of your kicks. I'm here to kill you. And there's a brutal razor's edge coming off the top. And she just straight down folds Hasegawa in half, neck first into the mat. And then after the kick out, she folds her absolutely in half again, just straight up on her neck via the JOC. Just, dear God, brutal. This is a case where I recommend seeing the clipped version because for a good chunk of this, it's pretty tough to get into. I watched the full thing. But somehow Hasegawa was fine after taking that JOC and that razor's edge. But you know she was sore for a while. I had to look up if she missed a bunch of shows after this match. But nah, she was fine, apparently, to keep going. But this is look, that JOC, when she's trying to deadlift him from the center of the ring, she has such a hard time actually getting them fully up on her shoulders because by the end of a 20-minute match, she's exhausted. So eventually we're going to get to the point where she starts using the ropes to get them up safer, and she can actually bring them down square on their back rather than their neck. So if you watch any Tsukasa Fujimoto match, that's more or less how she's able to get them up these days. And the fact that Toyota's against much larger opponents getting them up for JOCs than Tsukasa Fujimoto generally is. And now we're in the main event. It's Aja Kong Bull Nakano taking on and defeating Kyoko Inoue and Toshio Yamada. So a different sort of tandem there. 23 minutes, 6 seconds. It's the era of Aja Kong. They're coming out to her music. She's the big star now. She's the focal point. And Kyoko Inoue and Yamada are kind of they're that second tier group where they don't have titles. They're not the ones currently being pushed there, but they still want to be heavily featured. So Yamada has been bigger pushed coming out of the hair match, but not in the singles sense. They still I get the feeling they still get her into more tag roles. And Kyoko Inoue's big chance was the All Pacific title for her run and coming out of the Grand Prix. So here we are now, that runs over, and it's time to get Hokuto into a much larger role. So it's kind of just a case of, in a way, you had your time. We're going to have this big star now, have that. And look, AJW is pretty stacked, and they have all these titles. It might be time to maybe split up those tag titles, and that's when you can kind of have Inoue and Yamada. But hey, they're not the ones currently being pushed right now, and that's fair. There's only a certain amount. They'll be involved in more inter-promotional stuff as well. And that kind of keeps your roster fresh and keeps them from more or less just beating each other just too much. And you can you can fan out those big matches over a longer period of time. And you kind of see something similar happening in Stardom right now, where they don't want to beat their own roster up so much. They're bringing in the prominence. They're bringing in the colors. They're having those new blood shows to very much keep things fresh over a longer period of time. So then when you run out of that, then you can hit up your roster again. But Aja Kong and Bull Nakano make a fantastic team. They've buried the hatchet after a couple of years of going after each other, and Bull Nakano does win this match with a big leg drop off the top. Kind of surprised because she's going to go away to CMLL with that title, and I think she loses it to... I can't remember who she loses it to, but she's going to go away for a little bit and come back, and it's funny. She says she's part-time, but she still basically has 100 matches in a year. So part-time, just think about that. That's a full fucking schedule in the modern era. But in All Japan Women, they ran so much, 200-300 shows a year, 200-300 matches, that Bull Nakano's part-time half schedule is still equivalent to how much Stardom runs today, for example. That's wild to me. And that's just like twice a weekend. House shows and then big shows once a month situation. You would think that's like, man, that's a lot, but it's just a different universe, different world, different era. The January 24th show at Korakuen Hall says Cap 2100. I think we're getting a little ridiculous there, but I have the undercard here, and I did watch them. I mean, there's the Chikako Hasegawa, Masami Watanabe, rookie match, rookie tag. Nothing to worry about there. There's Mr. Buddha Man and Tsunokaki. I skipped that one. That just sounded like something I wouldn't be interested in. Sume Nomada against Bat Yoshinaga. You know my rule on Bat Yoshinaga matches. It's not happening. The Suzuka Minami Yumika Hota match was not good. It was way too long, way too drawn out. It was the definition of a killing time match until the timeout draw. Do not recommend it. 80% of this match was just laying there and maybe doing some kicks. Debbie Malenko and Hasegawa against Terry Power Kaoru Ito. Ito's not good yet. She's still terrible. I'm just waiting for that day. And a tag team of Terry Power and Ito was just like, I don't know what the fuck is happening as I watched that. They did some good moves at the beginning, but I can't recommend it. And now we're into the heart of the card, the back half, the last three, which were all good matches that I vastly enjoyed. Kyoko Inoue defeats Takako Inoue in 21 minutes, 8 seconds. By the way, this LOPW cross show is called Outbreak of the Storm. So that'll be kind of the title of this episode. And Kyoko Inoue, I'm getting real tired of her shit, where so much of her matches are based on old school lucha libre, where it's a lot of... She has her few high-flying moves, but it's a lot of wacky submission moves she's trying to invent. And while I do appreciate the innovation, just like in that Kyoko Inoue Toyota match, in a match like this, where I still went like 4 stars on it because the ending half is so engaging and good. Because Takako Inoue is looking for her big, big win. And against a main event type talent at this time, Kyoko Inoue, the crowd's firmly behind Takako as well, where they are just exchanging bombs and near falls at the end. It's so excellent. The German suplexes, the top rope suplexes, the just one missile dropkick after another, a running flying back elbow. Takako's leg lock got a good submission near fall. There's an excellent butterfly suplex. Like, I'm just lifting moves. I think my favorite was definitely the... I think Takako did a cutie special on the floor, and Kyoko barely breaks the 20 count before getting counted out. And from like that was the spot that took this match over the edge into kind of something being super boring into super engaging, and you bought every near fall. Somehow Takako Inoue, and the way this was structured, got over a super arm drag spot off the top, which was excellent. I love this match. I highly recommend it. I think if you can get past the first half, where it was a lot of submissions, you will love it too. And then the second match, the semi-main, is another Aja Kong Bull Nakano match where they defeated 1987 Team Gold Combo, Toyota, and Yamada 21-27. Or did Aja Kong get the pin in that first tag main event? Regardless, I know Bull Nakano won the match this time with a leg drop off the top, and a very similar situation to the main event of the previous one, where Aja Kong and Bull Nakano are just best buds now, and they kick ass and take names, and then give those names to someone else. Let's see. Did I have any more notes over how awesome this was? Let's see. Bull dominates Yamada. Let's see here. Flip over back suplex. Good little tag moves between the two. Manami keeps trying for the JOC, but Bull is absolutely too heavy. So that'll never happen. Bull finishes off Manami with a fucking moonsault. That's what this finish was. And the crowd goes nuts, chanting, Nakano, Nakano. Yeah, they just adore the ex-ace. Let's see. Aja cuts a promo on the corpse of Manami Toyota afterwards. Lots of missile drop kicks from Toyota throughout. Yeah. So I think that kind of sums it up. And then we get our big main event, which was LCO, Hokuto Mita Shimoda, taking on Eagle Sawai, Harley Saito, and my girl, Miki Honda. 24 minutes, 26 seconds. And in my LLPW reviews, I am talking up heavily how much Miki Honda has improved in 1993. She's not there at this point in time, but after the summer of 93 into the fall, it is the Miki Honda Elevation show, and I'm way into her. So I was very excited to see her in this match, and I absolutely knew she was going to get obliterated and taken the pin, and sure enough, she absolutely did. And what makes this match so good is the rawness of it. Everyone comes out for their entrances, but no one's like hugging and celebrating. When they start announcing the two teams on both sides, like Akira Hokuto is not taking her eyes off of Team LLPW. Harley Saito and Eagle Sawai are all business as well. They're just staring at each other. Streamers going in the air and they're not moving. So it's a serious fight and brand supremacy, if you will. And the entire match I can describe as an absolute raw mess. But it's the best raw mess you can ever see because it looked like an actual shoot fight at times with people trying to go into business for each other, constant counter reversals after one pin, lots of no selling, and they're just throwing slaps and elbows to each other over and over and over again. It is tremendous how much, like, I did not care about the no selling, and it's just like constant standoffs, and the crowd is just ignited from the get-go. It was a huge match, and the crowd's really into it, and I'm into it. It really felt like everyone's chanting AJW, which is Zenjo, Zenjo, Zenjo. They're firmly rooting for their team. And Eagle Sawai was kind of the people the other crowd the crowd was into for the LLPW side. I mean, there's spike tombstones, there's just constant near falls, lots of chops. Let's see, Northern Lights suplex from Mita to Harley gets a big pop. They're brawling on the outside constantly. There's a random spot on the outside where Shimoda just pile drives Honda through a table. It's fucking pandemonium. Akira Northern Lights bombs Harley, but gets I think that's a reversal, and there's like dragon suplex spots. How does this match end? Let's see. It's Akira finally runs in, plants Honda with a Northern Lights bomb, then runs interference so Shimoda can get the pin for her. Yeah, it was just a fight. Everyone's spitting venom. I actually felt this match had more hatred in it than the big JWP tag, and I kind of put it on that same level. I don't think Meltzer ever... No, I looked for it. Meltzer and the Observer didn't cover this match, but it was described as hot. And then there's a lot of shit talking after the match where the mic gets thrown down a million times. Kandori gets in the ring, and it's absolutely setting up Akira Hokuto, Shinobu Kandori, for later. This was great. I can't wait. This was a great double shot show to cover for AJW Destiny. It's something I can highly recommend. It's something you should definitely check out. And it's people like Etsuko Mita and Miki Honda that you notice a lot of the good work they do in matches like this. And the big stars really show out, particularly Akira Hokuto. We're in prime Akira Hokuto now. Like, I've been saying this throughout. Like, she wasn't there character-wise in 91, but she was definitely there ring-wise. And in 92, she found herself, and now in 93, she is absolutely there, and she's one of the biggest stars in wrestling. It's so much fun to watch, and I can't wait to watch more and share with you guys, and chronologically document a lot of this, which is sort of the best part. And that does it for AJW Destiny part of this podcast. I guess it's time to get into Nitro. But was it good again? I guess we'll find out. Here we go. All right, WCW Nitro, as I get my last little, last little note here done for the timestamp. And we're going to go quick and easy again. So here we are. It's August 9th, 1999, Boise, Idaho. Tony Schiavone is back on commentary with no mention of it, even though Rick Steiner just took out Mark Madden the previous week. It's the go-home show before Road Wild. And honestly, I'm going to spoil it now. 3 good weeks in a row, when you can argue a good month coming off of or heading to Road Wild. It's been a slow burn, but the shows are getting better. And yes, there is a reason for it. Kevin Nash has a committee with him now booking, and Kevin Sullivan is now booking the shows again for format and structure wise, which hasn't been done in quite some time. So that explains a lot, where Kevin Nash just simply wants to be in the main event and do his shtick, while the rest of the show is actually booked by someone competent, which is Kevin Sullivan. And they have lists of names that they want to push new, and it's working. Now, we did begin with Dusty Rhodes is now the head of WCW Championship Committee, even though the last time we saw him was the NWO, and Sting has kind of given back power. So whatever. Let's see. We begin with a trios match. It's Norman Smiley, Lash LaRue, and Prince Iaukea versus Vampiro and the Insane Clown Posse. That's how this starts. Raven is in the corner hanging out, so he hasn't quit yet, but we're getting there. And they're just talking about Nash Hogan over and over again in this match. But Violent J and Shaggy 2 Dope are like the 2 best dudes in this match, because Lash LaRue and Prince Iaukea have no fucking clue what they're doing, and it's hysterical. They're like waiting for moves and looking at each other and staring and acting like they need tags, but they don't know what they're doing half the time. And I think this match ends in DQ randomly. No. Vampiro does the Michinoku driver, and Violent J does a moonsault and pins him. So, okay, there you go. Let's see. We're in the back with Dusty Rhodes, and I believe they're calling the Dean Malenko, Chris Benoit, and what's his face, Shane Douglas, the Revolution. And they're talking to Dusty. Dusty's like, I gotta give you a chance, brother. And then David Flair walks by. He talks some shit, and Chris Benoit puts him in a crossface, like a bar fight. And coming off of their bullshit from the previous week, Dusty just goes, all right, Benoit, you get a U.S. title shot. And there's going to be no shenanigans from the outside for that one. The West Texas Rednecks have a new song called The Good Old Boys. It's nowhere near as good or catchy, but I guess it'll catch on because they were supposed to be heels, and Rap is Crap is over, and good guys, so they had to get rid of it. They're against Public Enemy. It's a mess, but it's kind of a fun mess. The camera shot at the end fucking completely misses Barry Windham going through the table, and you don't even see where Kurt Hennig grabs like a cowbell or something and nails Johnny Grunge from behind to pin him. So what a mess. And now we have the women's division of WCW just out of nowhere. It's like I'm watching AWA all of a sudden. It's Little Genie versus Mona in just a solid women's match from 1999 from the standards of North American wrestling. And did a little research. Apparently what we're going to see is Molly Holly here. She has her own wrestling school, and everyone she's going to pretty much face are people she's trained, and Little Genie is one of them. So how about that? And they had a decent little match, and Mona puts her in like an Indian deathlock and then just rolls her over to pin her in the lock. So that was kind of cool. And then we have Brandy Alexander, which is another Molly Holly student, come down, and we have a fucking women's division all of a sudden in WCW. Just the last couple weeks. Where did this come from? I'm into it. Let's do it. Let's see. Video on Hogan Nash. Hogan's in his NWO gear. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Okay. So Hogan's in the back, and he's in his NWO gear, and some random kid comes in and says, no, wear this. And he has the red and yellow. And Hogan just kind of walks out of the locker room in a frenzy because he's going to come out for a promo or something. And he then gets to the gorilla position, and he starts doing like calisthenics. It's like 1 brother, 2 brother, 3 brother. And then just out of the curtain, a fist comes in and punches him in the face. It's so ridiculous. I love it. It's Nash, Sid, and Rick Steiner all beating him up, and they take him out to the ring, and Sting Goldberg make a save. This was apparently enough of an annoyance to Hogan where he's going to put his career on the line on... This is a Saturday pay-per-view. And then he makes a challenge in the main event for a 6-man tag with him, Sting, and Goldberg against Nash, Sid, and Steiner. And if Hogan wins the trios match, then Nash will have to put his career on the line at Road Wild. It was more confusing than it sounds as they were doing it all, because it sounded like if Nash loses the main event, his career's over. But anyways, Nash, cocky, accepts, and we have our main event for Nitro like an hour into the show. Let's see here. Let's see. I think Nash in the promo says the belt's worthless and he'd rather take Hogan's career. Let's see. David Flair and Benoit. Benoit kind of makes short work of him, becomes U.S. champion. Torrie Wilson looks phenomenal. Bobby Heenan was like falling out of his chair describing what Torrie is wearing and how she looks, and I don't blame the guy. That's like primal instincts when you see a woman of Tori Wilson's stature. You're just like, oh, God, that's too much woman for me. I gotta, like, take 3 steps back. A lot of interference in this David Flair-Benoit match, just taking care of all the shenanigans, and Benoit ends up tapping him out a few times, and then Canyon runs in, DDP runs in, and then eventually, I think it's Nick Patrick's in this match, and he just counts the pin. So, take that for what it's worth. Let's see. Randy Savage. Here we go. He's going to reveal who is going to guard Gorgeous George on Saturday, who drove the Hummer. Gene introduces Gorgeous George with him, but Savage is alone when he comes out. Savage does the plug for the Rodman match at Road Wild and something about Gorgeous George and the Hummer more again, and he's kind of all over the place. It's very wacky. And they have this very long, like, Thunder recap, which I don't get. It's almost like there's no point in watching Thunder. Weird, right? Chris Adams, Dave Taylor take on Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio. This is the same night that Jericho just debuted on Raw. And The Rock put him over, said who the hell are you? And Rey hits a Lion Salt, which is Jericho's big move. So they kind of did that by the quarter hour when this occurred. This match was actually pretty good. I did like it, but the prison outfit that Rey Mysterio is wearing is not cool. He looks ridiculous. Mysterio does a Hurricane Rana to Adams, and Eddie finishes him off with a frog splash. Was there I think there was, yes, the Texas Rednecks come out and beat them up afterwards. I think that's the deal. Kidman Disco Inferno, halfway through the show. This is terrible. It's so boring. It's like non-stop headlocks, and then Vampiro runs in for the DQ. So fuck this match. I think there's going to be let's see. Vampiro ran in, and then I think Rey and Eddie came out for the save. So maybe we're getting a Rey Mysterio versus Vampiro match? I don't know. Scott Norton, Buff Bagwell. This was just garbage. It's vicious and delicious. It's a DQ finish with the Cat and Buff Bagwell. So that must continue. Yeah. And then, let's see. We get a lot of Kurt Hennig stuff. Nitro Girls. Canyon Booker T. Canyon nails Booker T with the belt, flatliner, and pins him. Yeah, that was fine. And then Sting Goldberg main event. Oh no, there was a Rodman thing, I think. And he came out to plug more of Randy Savage. Whatever. Sting Goldberg, Hogan against Steiner, Vicious, and Kevin Nash. It's funny, when you get to the second half of these Nitros, it starts becoming all the main eventers in action, and it's always DQ finishes till the very end. But the wrestling on the show was pretty damn good. And Hogan comes out to American Hero. He's wearing the red and yellow. The crowd just explodes for this man. He is for the kids yet again. They got even louder when Hogan got in the ring. And the Boise, Idaho crowd was just fantastic. And it's amazing. You put on a good show and you haven't been to a location in a while and the crowd gets into it. And it's a WCW crowd and they want the wrestling. Let's see. And it's a lot of normal type match here structure. Stinger splash into an exposed buckle. Steiner comes in, but Goldberg hits him with a spear. Was this before or after the DQ? Another referee comes out to say Nash is out for the... Oh, that's right. Nash gets his head clocked in, takes a leg drop from Hogan, and he's pinned mostly clean. And so that's Hogan versus Nash, career and title on the line for Road Wild. And as for the rest of I think the Road Wild card consists of, I think Steiner Sting, Nash Hogan with career title, Vampiro and the Insane Clown Posse against probably Rey Mysterio, Conan, and Kidman, maybe. Buff Bagwell, the Cat, most likely. And I'm kind of at a loss after that. So that's what we're looking at with Nitro. But yeah, I've been into it. I'm actually looking forward to a WCW pay-per-view, and I hope they don't fuck it up. Famous last words. But hey, pretty good stuff. This was episode 104, Global Women's Strike Cinderella Final. I'll see you next time, everybody. This was a fun episode to do.